Welcome to the quiet side of science, a place where curiosity moves at the speed of calm, and the night itself becomes a classroom made of silver light. Tonight, you're not just falling asleep, you're drifting upward into the ancient rhythm that has watched over humanity for billions of years. The same moon that pulled the tides is tugging softly at your heartbeat now. Its glow has guided travelers, inspired poets, and whispered to sleepless minds exactly like yours that stillness is not empty, it's full of wonder. You don't need to focus. The facts will arrive slowly, like ripples on a dark lake. Each one real, each one gentle, each one reminding you that knowledge can be as soothing as music when spoken softly enough. As you listen, your breathing will begin to match the orbit itself. Slow, steady, endless. You'll discover how moonlight shapes the mind, how its gravity steadies oceans, and why its silence feels like comfort. So settle in, let go of the day. Because tonight, the universe is small enough to hold in your hands. Welcome to the most relaxing facts about the moon. Welcome to the quiet side of night. Somewhere beyond the rooftops and tree lines, the moon has already risen calm, silver, and unhurried. Its light drifts through clouds and windows as though it were thinking. It doesn't ask you to look. It simply exists. A soft reminder that even in darkness, something ancient and patient still keeps watch. That light is older than you. Older than every memory you carry. It began as sunlight, left the star that warms your skin, and traveled across the black until it found the moon's dusted surface. There, it softened, scattered by tiny shards of glass and stone, before crossing the last 384,000 kilometers to reach the place where you are now. It took barely more than a second, but in that moment, the night became visible. When you see the moon, you are not only seeing light, you are witnessing a conversation between worlds. The sun speaks, the moon listens, and Earth receives the echo. That gentle exchange has continued for billions of years, never rushed, never loud. Even now, it plays out above you in total silence. The moon looks still, but it is always moving, drifting endlessly through a cold sea of gravity. Its orbit tugs at oceans and clouds, and somewhere, almost imperceptibly, it tugs at you too. You feel it in ways you can't quite name. The slow comfort of repetition, the steady pull towards sleep. Look closely, and you'll notice the moon is never the same twice. Each night brings a new softness, a slightly different curve, a new shimmer through the air. Its face is shaped by dust and time, by shadows of craters that never change yet always seem to. Through those small differences, you glimpse the passing of nights that belong only to you. Long before telescopes or cities, people watched this same light and told stories to understand it. They imagined gods, lovers, rabbits, dragons, and lost children hidden in its patterns. The moon became a mirror for our emotions, steady when we felt uncertain, changing when we needed change. Perhaps it still serves the same purpose. Perhaps it's the universe's way of leaving a small light on, to remind us that we are cared for. In those ancient nights, moonlight was the only illumination after fire. Villages measured time by its phases, knowing when to plant, when to travel, when to rest. The moon's rhythm guided life like a slow heartbeat in the sky. Today, we live in brighter nights, surrounded by imitation light, yet the true one remains outside, indifferent to cities, shining with the same patient grace it always has. Imagine, just for a moment, standing where that light is born. The ground beneath you is pale, fine dust, sharp but silent underfoot. There is no wind, no sound, only the horizon curving into blackness. Above, the earth glows like a blue lantern, and you realize that even home itself looks like a dream from here. The silence of the moon isn't empty, it is complete. That same silence travels with its light, reaching you now through your window. It touches walls, pillows, and the edges of your thoughts. The room becomes a small version of space, peaceful, still, infinite enough for rest. Under moonlight, colors fade into shades of silver, shadows lengthen, and soften. The ordinary world acquires a gentle strangeness, a kind of secret calm. The glass on the table glows faintly, leaves shimmer with ghostly green. Even your own reflection in the window seems quieter, as though it too is falling asleep. Every time you look at the moon, you are seeing the past light that left its surface moments ago, shaped by billions of years of collisions and cooling. The moon is a fossil of time, a relic suspended between then and now. Through it, you sense how immense time can be without feeling lost in it. It's not an overwhelming thought, it's soothing. Eternity, presented in manageable pieces of light. Breathe slowly. Notice how your breath begins to follow the moon's rhythm, a gentle expansion and return. Inhale like the waxing crescent, exhale like the fading sliver. Nothing in the sky rushes, and neither should you. Each phase arrives exactly when it must. There is no hurry in orbit. People call the moon lifeless, yet look at how alive it makes everything else. It brightens oceans, sharpens shadows, silvers clouds. It even illuminates the quiet curve of your hand. The moon doesn't create life, but it reveals it, reflecting the warmth of a sun you can't see right now. That is what makes its light so comforting. It's the warmth of day, remembered softly by night. Think about how many others have looked up at the same glow. Thousands of generations, scattered across continents and centuries, all sharing this light without knowing each other's names. Kings, travelers, children, and poets, every one of them linked by this quiet attention. Tonight, you are part of that chain, another pair of eyes joining an endless ritual of calm observation. The night seems quieter when the moon is full. Animals pause, the wind shifts, even human voices fall to whispers. Something in the air recognizes the need to match its stillness. The world slows itself in respect, and for a few hours, every living thing seems to breathe in unison, a planet in meditation. If you listen carefully, you'll hear that silence. It's not emptiness, it's fullness without noise. The hum of distant traffic becomes part of it, like waves folding into a single note. The moon doesn't create that sound, but somehow it organizes it, a conductor of quiet. And as you lie there, surrounded by silver shadows, a thought arrives softly. What exactly is this light that never burns, yet never fades? The question floats through you, small and harmless, like a ripple in still water. It doesn't need an answer, it only needs space. The moon asks nothing of you, no prayer, no wish, no understanding. It has watched this world for almost all of its history. It will keep watching long after tonight ends. That's its promise, constancy without demand. So let your thoughts settle, let them drift as the moon drifts. The same light that moves the tides is here now, waiting on your skin, quiet as breath. You are safe beneath it. You are small, and that smallness is a kind of peace. The moon that watches oceans rise and mountains age is watching over you, too patient, unblinking, endlessly calm. If you step outside tonight and look up, you'll see the moon glowing in its quiet way, not fierce like the sun, not cold like a star. It has the perfect light for night, enough to see, not enough to wake. But that light is not its own. The moon is a mirror, a borrowed lantern hanging in the sky. Sunlight leaves the sun in a rush of energy, blinding, burning, radiant. It races outward at the speed of all light, 8 minutes to Earth, 1 more second to reach the moon. There, the light meets something unexpected: dust, stone, and the tiniest fragments of ancient glass. The moon's surface is rough at every scale, from mountains to grains of powder. Each grain is a scatterer, sending sunlight outward in every direction, diffusing brilliance into tenderness. This is why moonlight feels soft. The light is not changed in color, it's changed in character. The sun's heat has been filtered through stillness. What arrives to us is the same sunlight, only gentler, diluted by silence. If sunlight is a shout, moonlight is a whisper. The surface that performs this quiet alchemy is called the regolith, a blanket of crushed rock and glass formed by billions of years of impacts. Under a microscope, each grain is jagged, sharp, tiny as dust, capable of catching light at thousands of angles. No atmosphere softens it, No weather smooths it. That means every photon that lands there has a chance to bounce off unpredictably, scattered into the black, some toward distant space, some toward you. The fraction that reaches us is small, only about 7% of what the moon receives. And yet, that small reflection is enough to illuminate entire oceans. It's strange to think that the moon is actually dark. If you could stand beside it in space and look directly at its surface, it would appear the color of worn asphalt. We only think of it as bright, because the darkness around it is deeper still. Against the endless black, even a dim reflection becomes brilliance. It's a lesson hidden in plain sight, that light doesn't have to be strong to be seen. Imagine one of those tiny photons beginning its journey. Born in the core of the sun, it spends thousands of years fighting its way outward, ricocheting between atoms until it finally escapes into open space. In a blink, it crosses the void, hits a grain of lunar glass, and changes course. A heartbeat later, it brushes your skin, enters your eye, and becomes a thought. How beautiful. That's its entire purpose fulfilled. To travel, reflect, and remind. Scientists describe this gentling of light using a measure called albedo. The moon's albedo is low, meaning it absorbs most of the sunlight and reflects only a fraction. Planets and moons with higher albedo, like icy Enceladus, shine almost painfully bright. But the moon's modest reflectivity makes its glow uniquely comfortable. It is a balance between absence and excess, between dark and light. Perhaps that's why we can look at it endlessly without strain. It's tuned to the human heart rate of vision. When the moon is full, you see the sun's light striking it head-on, scattering evenly across the surface. That uniform reflection makes it appear round, calm, and complete. But when it wanes, the sun's rays hit at an angle, revealing shadows, textures, a landscape of subtle depth. The gentle rhythm of phases is just geometry, yet to us, it feels like emotion. Fullness and fading, appearing and retreating, like the breath of the sky. Each of those phases controls more than just beauty. They guide tides, influence animal cycles, and in small ways affect our sleep. Studies show that during the full moon, some people take longer to fall asleep, as if the ancient body still remembers when that brighter glow meant time to stay awake, to watch, to listen. Even now, behind curtains and walls, we feel that ancestral pulse, the body's quiet dialogue with light. If you ever notice moonlight on water, you'll see how it stretches a trembling line across the waves, as though the ocean itself were carrying the light to you. That line is an illusion, caused by thousands of reflections combining in motion. Yet it feels personal, like a message addressed to a single observer. The science is simple, the experience sacred. The same scattering that softens moonlight also hides color. True sunlight is full of warmth, yellows, reds, invisible heat. But the moon's dust reflects more blue and gray wavelengths, filtering away warmth and leaving that familiar silver tone. That's why everything under moonlight looks dreamlike, slightly unreal. You're seeing the world stripped of color, but not of meaning, like remembering something, rather than living it. Ancient philosophers believed the moon made its own light. They imagined it glowing from within, a lantern in the heavens. Only later did scientists like Galileo prove that it merely reflects. Yet even with that knowledge, the illusion persists. The moon feels alive. Reflection doesn't make it lesser. It makes it relatable. We, too, are reflections of the stars that built our atoms, of the light that feeds our days. In that sense, the moon's borrowed light is honest. There's comfort in that idea. The moon doesn't compete with the sun, it complements it. One rules the hours of action, the other the hours of rest. One blazes, the other glows. Between them, Earth lives in rhythm. If both shone alike, there would be no contrast, no balance, no cycle. The world would never know night. Look again, and notice how the moon's edges fade gently into the sky. It's not a perfect circle of light, but a gradient of quiet brightness. Air scatters some of the reflected rays, giving halos and glows that shift with moisture and dust. The light you see is never just lunar. It's a mixture of space and earth, of distance and air. You are part of the reflection too. If you could remove all the light pollution, all the distractions, and stand in a silent field beneath a clear sky, the moon's glow would feel almost physical. You'd see the ground silvered, shadows elongated, the atmosphere thin with peace. Every leaf would gleam softly, like the world exhaling in light. And still, that small question remains. How can something so far away feel so close? Maybe because light, once scattered, belongs to everyone. It touches without choosing, travels without preference. The same photons that once struck the sea of tranquility may touch your eyelid tonight. In that sense, moonlight is not a thing you see, but something that passes through you. Sunlight translated into comfort. The moon shines because it remembers the Sunday, and we shine because we remember both. For as long as eyes have opened beneath the night, the moon has been there, a silver parent above the crib of earth. It rises not to wake us, but to remind us that darkness was never empty. Long before firelight or cities, when the first people gathered in caves, that same glow poured over stone walls and quiet faces. It was their first lamp, their first clock, their first sense that the sky was watching back. Every creature that sleeps on this planet does so within the rhythm the moon began. Its pull moves the oceans, and the oceans whisper that pull into every heartbeat, every tide of blood. Even the smallest cell in your body keeps time to a pattern traced by that orbit. The moon does not command, it nurtures through repetition. Rise, fall, light, dark, wake, rest. Like a cradle rocked by invisible hands. Imagine a night 10,000 years ago. There were no roads, no screens, only the fire and the sky. The moon hung lower then, larger and warmer in color, its light brushing over water and bone. To those early watchers it must have seemed alive, changing shape, hiding, returning. Each phase became a promise that nothing truly disappears, it only transforms. Birth and fading, always followed by return. That rhythm shaped the first calendars, the first stories, the first idea of time as something gentle rather than cruel. When humanity learned to count the days, it counted by moons. Every culture gave the cycle its own names: the wolf moon, the harvest moon, the moon of long nights. The words differed, but the feeling was the same: gratitude for a companion that kept showing up. In this way, the moon became a parent of memory, a keeper of continuity. If you trace myth back far enough, nearly every civilization once believed the moon cared about us. In Mesopotamia it was Sin, calm and wise. In Egypt it was Thoth, measuring order and time. In Greece it became Selene, driving her glowing chariot across the heavens each night so mortals could dream in safety. Even those who feared the dark trusted the moon. They told children that as long as it shone, no harm could cross the threshold. Fear retreated with the tides. There's something universal in that comfort. Look at any painting or poem about the night, and you'll find the same emotion: a small figure gazing upward, quietly understood by a pale circle above. The moon doesn't answer, but it listens. It holds our worries without reflecting them back too brightly. It's the universe's soft shoulder. Over centuries, humanity learned to measure its distance, to map its craters, to predict its eclipses. Yet precision never diminished wonder. Knowing how the light travels doesn't make it less beautiful. It makes beauty feel honest. Science and serenity live easily together here. The same equations that describe tidal pull also describe the pulse beneath your skin. Both are orbits. Both are motions seeking balance. Think of the way children fall asleep under moonlight. The pattern on the wall, filtered through curtains, seems to move like breathing. Their eyes follow it until they close. That instinct hasn't left us. Even as adults, something in our nervous system slows when silver light spreads through the room. Heart rate drops, muscles release. The body recognizes an ancient cue. Night is safe. The moon has returned. Artists have always tried to paint that feeling: Turner's smudged horizons, Van Gogh's spiraling skies, photographers capturing halos through fog. Yet the real masterpiece is simpler: the glow on a still lake, the outline of a sleeping hillside, the hush that falls when clouds uncover the disk again. The moon turns the world into its own gallery each night, no admission required. And when storms hide it, the mind imagines it anyway. That's the strength of the bond. Even unseen, it's remembered. Sailors in rough seas would navigate by faith in its position, trusting the rhythm more than the sight. In monasteries and observatories, scholars would note its absence like a friend's silence. The moon taught patience that not all light is constant, but all light returns. There's a gentleness in realizing how small we are within that patience. The same moon that calmed the first fires still pours over skyscrapers and deserts alike. It has watched languages bloom and vanish, continents drift, mountains erode. Yet it keeps the same expression, calm, impartial, forgiving. To gaze at it is to stand inside history's cradle, rocked by gravity and time. Every night, it lifts the sky a little higher, like a parent pulling a blanket over the world. Stars emerge around it as if reassured by its glow. Even the darkness feels organized when the moon is present, structured into shades instead of voids. You can sense that structure in your self-thoughts, sorting quietly, memories aligning, worries losing edges. The moon is teaching you how to rest. Listen to the silence it brings. No orchestra, no sermon, just an invisible rhythm spreading through the landscape. Crickets pause. Waves adjust their tempo. A kind of coordination hums between all living things. The scientist might call it circadian entrainment. The poet might call it grace. Either way, it's real. And as you lie beneath that rhythm, half in wakefulness, half in dream, you begin to understand why humanity built stories around this light. The moon doesn't need worship. It only asks that you notice it, that you let your senses drift toward calm. It doesn't judge the noise of your mind. It simply absorbs it, reflecting back silence. In its silver patience, the moon reminds you that rest is participation, not withdrawal. The tides rest by turning back. The night rests by dimming gently. You rest by breathing slowly under borrowed light. It's the oldest ritual on earth, older than language, to surrender under the gaze of something constant. The moon was our first teacher of rhythm, our first clock, our first nightlight. It taught us that darkness could cradle rather than consume. And even now, billions of years later, it keeps teaching. Above every city and forest and field, it rocks the world to sleep in cycles too vast to feel but too perfect to break. When you look at it tonight, you are looking into the cradle that made dreams possible. The quiet ark where curiosity and comfort first met. The moon holds the night in its curve, and the night holds you. Nothing else in the sky does that. Nothing needs to. Long before the first ocean tide, before air or rain, there was only the newborn earth, molten, restless, glowing like an ember in the dark. Around it drifted dust, stone, and forgotten fragments of other worlds. Space was silent then, but filled with motion. Millions of bodies circling the young sun, colliding, merging, dissolving. It was not yet the calm sky we know. It was creation still in motion. Somewhere in that slow storm, a planet the size of Mars crossed Earth's path. Its name, given long after, would be Theia. Two worlds met. There was no sound, only pressure and light, the kind of moment that could shatter or shape a universe. For a few violent hours, mountains melted, oceans of rock collided, and the sky itself turned to fire. Yet from that impact came something unexpected: balance. What was thrown away did not vanish. It gathered, slowly, patiently, into a ring of molten debris. Gravity reached out its invisible hand, and over time, years, then centuries, thousands of millennia, those glowing fragments circled, cooled, and fused. Out of ruin, a companion emerged. The moon was born from silence after thunder. You might imagine that first view from Earth. The horizon would have glowed with rivers of magma, and above it hung a moon still red from birth, vast and near, 20 times larger in the sky than it appears tonight. It would rise and set quickly, casting copper light across an ocean of fire. Even then, its pull began, tides not of water, but of molten stone, rising and falling like breath. Creation had found its rhythm. The collision that should have destroyed both worlds instead bound them together. Their cores mingled, their orbits intertwined. Earth and Moon became a pair, parent and child, mirror and reflection. The debris cooled, the seas formed, clouds gathered, and each night, the newborn Moon watched the steam of Earth's first rain drift upward like memory. Science calls this the giant impact hypothesis. The words are simple, the reality unimaginable. Two worlds, two gravities, one shared fate. Out of chaos, pattern. Out of heat, harmony. Every orbit since then is a quiet echo of that moment. The memory of impact transformed into motion, too gentle to feel. It's strange to think that something so peaceful began in fire, but perhaps that's what the universe keeps telling us, that even the fiercest beginnings can soften with time. The craters you see tonight are not scars of pain. They are fossils of energy finding rest. They remind us that beauty often begins with collapse, and that permanence can grow from disaster. When scientists study the Moon's rocks, they find fragments identical to Earth's mantle, proof that the two were once one. The dust you see through a telescope isn't foreign. It's our own planet's forgotten skin, lifted into the heavens and frozen there. Every glimmer on that surface is a reminder of reunion. The Moon is not a stranger orbiting us, it is us, returned in reflection. Imagine standing on that early Earth after the impact. The nights would have glowed with a crimson moon racing across the sky, its gravity pulling tides hundreds of meters high. Days would have been short, perhaps only 6 hours long. Everything was faster, brighter, louder, and yet, within that chaos, the first seeds of stability were sown. The Moon's pull slowed Earth's spin, stretched time itself into gentleness. What began as collision became clockwork. Over eons, the fiery glow faded. The Moon moved farther away, orbit by orbit, until its pull matched our calm. Oceans settled, atmospheres cooled. Life began to stir in tidal pools shaped by its gravity. Without that collision, without that satellite's patient tug, there might never have been tides, or seasons, or breath. Destruction had made the conditions for dreaming. The Moon, then, is a memory of resilience. Each crater, each basin, each quiet mare tells the same story. Even when shattered, matter seeks form. Even when hurled into darkness, it finds a way to shine. What once was molten became dust. What once was dust became mirror. There is a comfort in knowing that violence can become gentleness if given enough time. Tonight, when you see the Moon, you are seeing the still frame of an ancient explosion, paused forever at the moment it became peace. The same physics that tore two worlds apart now keeps them together. Gravity is both wound and healing the invisible thread that ties us to our beginning. Sometimes, late at night, it helps to remember that you too were shaped by collisions. Moments of change, of loss, of heat, and noise that later cooled into something calm. The Moon is proof that every impact can find its orbit. Nothing drifts without meaning. Look again at its surface through the mind's eye. Those vast plains once glowed with liquid rock. Now they lie still, catching light like bowls of silver ink. You can trace the rim of ancient craters, the delicate shadows of ridges, all the evidence of a past too fierce to imagine, now softened by billions of years of quiet. That is what time does. It turns chaos into lullaby. The Moon has been circling us for 4.5 billion years. Each revolution is another breath in the long recovery from that first impact. The orbit wobbles slightly, adjusts, perfects itself, and Earth, in turn, leans toward it not as a servant to a master, but as one dancer to another. Their steps are measured, endless, forgiving. In the dark sky, they seem still. But everything you see, the rise, the pull, the faint shimmer, is motion born from collision. Without that moment, there would be no tides to lull the shore, no rhythm to mark the months, no gentle face watching you now. Peace, it seems, is not the absence of violence, but its transformation. So when you watch the Moon tonight, know that you are watching the echo of fire, turned into calm. A scar turned into symmetry. A broken world that chose to orbit rather than fall apart. It drifts above you, like forgiveness itself, a quiet silver apology from the cosmos, whispering that even in ruin, something beautiful can begin again. After the collision, after the molten oceans cooled and the fires dimmed, the young Earth turned beneath a sky that glowed with its newborn companion. The moon was near then, far nearer than it is tonight. It filled the heavens like a second horizon, immense and amber, hovering so close it seemed you could hear it move. Its pull was strong. Each day, the tides rose higher than mountains. Oceans sloshed and rolled across continents, drawn by a gravity that was more an embrace than a command. The two worlds orbited each other like breathing lungs, inhaling, exhaling, circling in rhythm. From space, they would have looked like partners dancing in slow motion, their steps written in light and shadow. The night was not dark in those days. The moon's glow spilled across the young planet's clouds, turning storms into silver spirals, transforming volcanic smoke into shimmering veils. Lightning flickered through them, illuminating a world still finding its balance. Yet, amid that rawness, there was already beauty, the first gentle relationship written into the laws of motion. The Earth rotated quickly then, its days short, its nights brief. The moon's strong gravity tugged at the oceans, at the crust, even at the air, slowing that spin little by little. Over time, the rush became rhythm. The chaos of speed softened into the calm pace we now call time. The moon, by its steady pull, was teaching Earth how to breathe. Imagine standing on the shore of that early world. The continents are still being born, molten ridges cooling into rock, steam rising in pillars where the sea meets the heat. Above, the moon's face fills half the sky, glowing like a lamp made of stone. Every ripple of water gleams in its light. The air trembles, and the whole world seems to sway, as if in a cradle. From that closeness came not destruction, but tenderness. The moon and Earth were bound in gravity's quiet conversation, two bodies that had once been one, now separated, yet still orbiting in longing. Each pass of the moon across the sky was a reminder of that connection, a memory repeated endlessly until it became nature's heartbeat. It's easy to think of gravity as something cold and mathematical, but it is also the universe's gentlest form of attachment. It is what keeps us anchored, what allows orbits instead of chaos, patterns instead of wandering. Every falling leaf, every tide, every breath of air moved by the turning planet is an echo of that early closeness, an unbroken whisper of stay. As the moon drifted outward, the Earth followed its lead, stabilizing its tilt, calming its storms. The days lengthened, the nights stretched. The sky began to hold still long enough for clouds to form, rain to fall, life to imagine itself into being. None of it would have been possible without that slow separation, that careful pulling apart. Sometimes distance is not loss, it is balance. In that distance grew everything. When the first molecules combined, when oceans cooled enough for reflection, the moon was still large and bright, its light stirring tides that mixed minerals and heat. Those rhythmic surges became the cradle for life itself, waves carrying chemistry toward complexity, stirred again and again under lunar supervision. Every tide you've ever seen is a continuation of that first lesson. Movement as nourishment. Somewhere in those ancient waters, cells learned to divide, to follow patterns of day and night, to rest and wake with the moon's cycles. Even now, deep in your biology, that rhythm remains. Your body knows the phases of the moon not consciously, but through the same timeless pulse that once lifted the sea. There's comfort in realizing that your heartbeat and the moon's orbit share ancestry. Both began as turbulence and found peace in repetition. Both turn chaos into rhythm. When you feel tired, when you breathe slowly in the dark, you are syncing with something billions of years old, the leftover calm of creation itself. The moon was brighter then, almost too bright to look at. Its surface still held warmth from the impact, radiating faint heat, glowing with the color of cooled iron. Nights must have been copper and gold, soft yet vivid, like sunsets that refused to end. The young Earth, wrapped in clouds, glowed back. The two worlds mirrored one another across space, not separate, not fused, but harmonized. Over millions of years, the moon drifted farther away, losing brightness, but gaining serenity. The tides softened, the days stretched longer, the atmosphere thickened. The violent glow of creation gave way to the calm we know, the pale silver we call moonlight. What was once passion became patience. The story of the Earth and Moon is the story of learning how to let go without breaking connection. Even now, the Moon is leaving us slowly, steadily, at the rate of about 4 centimeters each year. It's an almost imperceptible farewell, a reminder that all relationships change shape. But this one will never end. Gravity keeps them bound, forever circling, forever reflecting each other's light. Sometimes, when you stand beneath a full moon, you can almost feel that ancient nearness, a ghost of the time when the sky was filled with one shared glow. Perhaps that's why moonlight feels so personal. It carries the memory of proximity, of warmth turned gentle, of collision turned care. Every reflection we see tonight is a message from that past, a message of endurance. The same light that once poured over molten rock now rests quietly on ocean waves and sleeping cities. It is history softened by distance. It is the echo of creation, humming itself into lullaby. The moon may drift, but it never leaves. It moves away only enough to keep time steady, to keep life possible. Its departure is a kind of devotion, the graceful giving of space. Like any guardian, it watches from afar so that its child can grow in peace. And that's how we arrive at the world we know. An earth that spins calmly, an ocean that breathes, and a moon that hovers just far enough to make both possible. 2 worlds, once one, now perfectly apart, still orbiting, still remembering. A love story written in gravity, told in silence, retold every night in silver light. The young glow faded long ago, but its lesson remains. Even separation can be beautiful when it happens in rhythm, when it leaves behind light instead of loss. The moon is leaving us, slowly, gently, almost lovingly, about 4 centimeters each year. Not enough to see, not enough to feel, but enough to remind us that even the most constant relationships drift with time. This isn't loss, it's rhythm. A cosmic exhale so gradual, it takes a human lifetime to measure a heartbeat of it. Every night, as the tides rise and fall, the Earth transfers a tiny fragment of its rotation to the moon's orbit. It's like handing energy to a friend so they can move farther along their path. Earth spins a little slower, the moon drifts a little higher. The gesture repeats endlessly, a quiet exchange of motion for balance. It's strange to think that the same tides that soothe the shoreline are also pushing the moon away. The water we watch each evening, the calm breathing of the ocean, is slowly reshaping the architecture of the sky. The sound of waves on the sand is the sound of gravity adjusting its grip. With every tide, Earth whispers, "Go on, I'll catch up." Millions of years ago, the moon was so close that it filled the horizon. Nights were shorter, tides stronger, days briefer. But as the centuries unfolded, the orbit widened. Distance brought quiet. The tides softened, the spin slowed, and the long patience of life began. Without that drift, days would still flash by in hours, and the world would never have learned to rest. The rate of separation seems tiny centimeters per year, yet over eons it becomes poetry in motion. When dinosaurs walked the earth, the moon was closer, their nights were brighter. When early humans lit their first fires, it had already slipped farther away, its light cooler, its rhythm steadier. Each era inherits a slightly different sky. Yet the story feels the same calm face, the same promise above the dark. If you could accelerate time, watching millions of years pass in a few breaths, you would see the moon spiraling outward in slow grace, like a dancer turning in widening circles, hand still held by the partner at the center. The thread of gravity never breaks, it only lengthens. That lengthening is what keeps both worlds balanced. A choreography of patience, written across billions of nights. There will come a time, unimaginably far away, when the Earth's rotation will slow enough that one side will always face the moon. The same half of our planet will see it frozen in the same place in the sky, forever full, never setting. The tides will still move, but more faintly, as if remembering. The other side of Earth will never see that light again. But by then, perhaps, no one will be here to miss it. Until then, this slow parting continues not as tragedy, but as evolution. We often think of stillness as peace, but the universe prefers motion. It teaches that harmony isn't found in stopping, but in drifting gently, purposefully, endlessly. The moon's slow journey outward is a lesson in quiet persistence. It doesn't hurry to escape, it doesn't cling. It simply moves, patient as breath, consistent as time. Scientists measure its distance with mirrors left on its surface by Apollo astronauts. They send pulses of light, tiny bursts of photons from Earth to those panels and back again. The journey takes just over 2.5 seconds. From that delay, we know the distance grows. Even our most advanced instruments rely on reflection, on the same principle that makes moonlight. We shine a light, the moon answers softly, and from that answer, we learn how far we've come. 4 centimeters a year. It sounds like nothing, but across 4 billion years, it is everything. The moon has moved from a fiery intimacy to the tranquil distance we now see a relationship matured into stability. The sky is what happens when love learns patience. If you listen closely to the story of this drift, it mirrors the story of life itself. Growth is movement outward. Maturity is not holding on too tightly. The tides that once crashed violently now murmur. The moon that once filled the sky now watches quietly from afar. And in that space between nearness and distance, everything alive has found its rhythm. There is peace in this slow letting go. The same peace you feel when waves retreat across the sand, or when twilight fades into night. It's the comfort of knowing that change doesn't erase. It reshapes. The moon doesn't abandon the earth. It creates balance through distance, harmony through motion. If you could stand outside of time, watching billions of years unfold, the whole relationship would look like a breath. A great inhale of creation, an exhale of separation. Both necessary, both beautiful. The expansion of space mirrors the expansion of trust, the understanding that closeness doesn't depend on proximity, but on connection that endures across silence. And so, the moon continues its slow journey, a pilgrim of light moving outward through the dark. Each year, a little farther, each orbit a little wider. It never stops watching, never stops reflecting. Its light reaches us as faithfully as ever, crossing the growing gap without complaint. The distance increases, but the bond remains perfect. Sometimes, on a quiet night, you can almost feel that motion, not as movement, but as calm. The tides pulling softly at the calm shore, your heartbeat syncing with their rhythm. It's all part of the same exchange, the same invisible physics of tenderness. Earth turns, the moon drifts, and between them stretches a thread made of gravity and grace. There's no sadness in this drift, only wonder. The same wonder that comes from watching a child grow, a season change, a wave recede. The space between is what makes beauty possible. Without distance, there is no reflection. Without motion, no time. Without change, no calm. So when you look up tonight and see the moon hanging there, remember that it's still moving imperceptibly, steadily guided by a force too gentle to notice. The sky above you is in motion, yet it feels eternal. And perhaps that's the secret of peace. To move so slowly that it feels like stillness. The moon drifts, the earth turns, and the night unfolds patient, endless, kind. There is no wind on the moon. No rustle, no whisper, not even the faintest breath. The dust that covers its surface fine as powder, sharp as glass, lies perfectly still. Every grain has been in place for millions of years, disturbed only by the occasional fall of a meteor or the quiet arrival of something from Earth. It is the most silent place we have ever touched. If you could stand there, the first thing you'd notice is the horizon close, curved, delicate. The sky above would be black even at noon, not from darkness, but from the absence of air. And across that black, the earth would hang, blue, white, alive, floating in stillness. It would look small enough to cup in your hands, yet filled with every story, every sound, every life that has ever been. Around you, the landscape stretches in shades of grey and silver. Mountains without colour. Plains that shine faintly in sunlight and glow softly beneath Earth's reflection at night. Shadows fall sharp, edges absolute. There are no twilights here, no gradual transitions. Only light and dark, day and night, truth and silence. The surface dust is older than any mountain on Earth. Formed by billions of years of impacts, it is made of glass shards ground to powder by time. Every step leaves an imprint that will remain for eternity. There is no wind to erase it, no rain to smooth it away. When astronauts first stepped from their lander in 1969, their boots pressed into this dust, and those prints are still there, perfectly preserved. They will outlast every city, every monument, every trace of our presence on Earth. Imagine that moment, the first human foot descending into lunar dust, the motion slow, deliberate, like moving through water. The grain lifts, hovers, and falls in perfect arcs, untouched by air. It's an image humanity remembers not for sound or color, but for the silence that followed a man breathing inside a fragile suit, surrounded by eternity. The voice that said, "One small step," for man, could have been a whisper or a prayer. What makes that moment remarkable is not conquest, but stillness. It's as if humanity had reached the universe's resting pulse, a place where motion stops and time holds its breath. The moon's gravity, 1/6 of Earth's, makes each step a slow float. Movements become dreamlike, gentle, without weight or rush. Even a fall feels like gliding. To walk here is to move through silence itself. If you listen, though, there is nothing to hear. You might imagine a faint hum beneath the dust. Scientists call them moonquakes, tiny tremors that ripple through the crust as it expands and contracts under the sun's heat. They are the only motion this world knows. Even its rest has rhythm. Above, there is no atmosphere to scatter light, so shadows are pure and black. The sun rises without dawn, blazes without warning, and sets in an instant. 2 weeks of unbroken day, 2 weeks of perfect night. When the sun disappears, the stars return all at once, countless, motionless, cold. On the moon, the stars do not twinkle. There is nothing to bend their light. They shine as they truly are, steady, ancient, exact. There's a comfort in the simplicity of it all. No weather, no erosion, no seasons. Change happens only in deep time. A slow accumulation of dust, an occasional impact from a passing rock. Even the craters remain almost untouched since their birth. You could trace your finger along the rim of one and feel history in its rawest form. Time unpolished, truth unhurried. The lunar plains, called mere seas in Latin, are not seas at all, but frozen lakes of basalt from long-dead volcanoes. When sunlight strikes them, they gleam like old metal. When the sun sets, they fade to velvet grey. The illusion of water remains only in name, a ghost of movement in a place that never moves. Somewhere, in those plains, lie the landing sites, quiet now. Their metal shells, reflecting faint light. The flags placed, they have turned white from radiation. The footprints still circle the craft like petals around a flower. They will remain long after memory fades, long after language changes, perhaps long after Earth itself is gone. The moon is the museum of time, every mark preserved, every story suspended in silence. Standing there, you would feel two sensations at once, the vastness of space above and the smallness of your own body against that infinite calm. Yet, it would not feel lonely. It would feel precise, the kind of solitude that doesn't wound, but heals, the silence that clarifies rather than empties. On Earth, silence is rare and temporary. Here, it is constant, almost sacred. If you could place your hand on the ground, you would feel no warmth, only the slow memory of sunlight stored in rock. Beneath that surface lies a quiet, deeper than thought, a kind of waiting. The moon has been waiting since the beginning, patient and unjudging, watching Earth spin through its ages. It has seen oceans appear, Forests bloom, creatures rise and fall, lights spread across the continents. Yet from here, all of that is just a shimmer on a distant blue sphere. The first people who walked on this dust carried their world with them. Air, warmth, breath, heartbeat. When they returned home, they carried dust on their boots, tiny grey fragments that had not moved in billions of years. Even now, those particles rest in glass cases on Earth, still untouched by moisture, still holding the silence of space. They are reminders that peace exists, not only in dreams, but in the very texture of the universe. The moon's dust is more than powder. Its memory, each grain a record of light, impact, and patience. Every footprint we left there is an inscription on eternity, a soft statement that we once paused long enough to look back and whisper, home. Here, the story slows completely. Nothing chases the next moment. Time drifts like powder across stone. Every echo fades into stillness. The moon doesn't rush, doesn't change, doesn't forget. It simply waits, forever illuminated, forever calm, a perfect mirror for anyone learning how to rest. So when you close your eyes tonight, imagine that dust beneath your feet, the stillness of it, the weightless quiet of an untouched world. The same dust that remembers stars, collisions, and first steps also remembers you, watching it from afar. In that thought lies a strange comfort, that somewhere in the universe, silence itself holds the shape of a footprint, and it will never fade. If you look closely at the moon through a telescope, what you see is not a smooth world of silver, but a body covered in circles, overlapping, endless, intricate. Each crater is an echo, a frozen moment when something from space met the surface and was absorbed without sound. There are no winds to erase these marks, no rain to blur their edges. Every one of them remains exactly where it fell, like punctuation marks in the story of time. They vary in size, some no larger than a teacup, others wide enough to hold oceans. The smallest were made by stones no heavier than your hand, the largest by mountains falling from the sky. And yet, whether massive or microscopic, they share the same stillness. The moment of impact was violent, but its memory is peaceful. The moon, in its way, is covered with evidence that chaos can be captured and held without pain. If you could walk among them, the horizon would constantly rise and fall, a landscape made of circles inside circles. The ground would shimmer with glassy beads created in an instant of unimaginable heat. They are called spherules, tiny spheres of melted rock that cooled before they could fall far. Billions of them glitter just beneath the dust, the residue of past collisions. They sparkle faintly when sunlight hits them, like old stars trapped in stone. Each crater has a name. Some are named for astronomers, others for poets, philosophers, explorers, Kepler, Plato, Tycho, Copernicus. They are memorials carved not by human hands, but by the universe itself. Each name is our attempt to speak to time, to recognize that even destruction can leave beauty behind. You might imagine that every crater holds a story, an unseen history pressed into silence. The largest of them all, called the South Pole, Aitken Basin, is so vast it could swallow continents. It was formed over 4 billion years ago, when the solar system was young and the sky was crowded with wandering rocks. The collision that created it released more energy than anything Earth has ever known. Yet now, it lies quietly in shadow, smooth, graceful, and still. What began as fire became sculpture. On Earth, the traces of such moments vanish quickly. Weather and water heal our surface too fast for memory. The moon, without such comforts, remembers everything. It is the archive of the solar system, the keeper of impacts, of beginnings, of every small catastrophe that shaped our neighborhood. To look at it is to see the past frozen in perfect relief. Somewhere in that pattern of circles lies the record of the very first meteor that ever struck after the moon cooled. Its rim is softened now, worn not by wind but by later collisions. Even memory is layered here, one echo over another, time building like sediment. The surface is not a battlefield. It is a symphony written in impacts. every note a whisper of arrival. When sunlight crosses those craters at dawn or dusk, the shadows stretch across kilometers of silence. From orbit, they look like brushstrokes. The rims glow faintly gold, the floors fade into gray. The contrast is breathtaking, so simple, so precise. In those hours, you can see why artists and photographers have always tried to capture this landscape. It's not barren, it's honest. Every mark is truth, and truth here is gentle. Scientists study the pattern of craters to measure time. The older the surface, the more circles it holds. The moon's far side, unseen from Earth, carries the oldest scars, untouched for billions of years. Some are deep enough to hide entire mountains, others shallow as fingerprints. The pattern tells a story of the early solar system, of storms of stone, of planets forming and colliding. But what the instruments measure, the heart translates differently, as endurance. Even silence has texture. The shadows inside a crater are not empty. They shimmer with faint reflections of Earthlight, that pale blue glow that travels across space and gently rests on the floor of the ancient scars. The moon, for all its grayness, never stops being painted by its companion's light. Even its darkness is touched by memory. Imagine tracing one crater's edge with your gloved hand. The slope would be steep but smooth, covered in fine dust that drifts but never flies. You would feel nothing but resistance and stillness. Every step would fall into another's echo. Each footprint would join an endless pattern of circles, each one quietly eternal. From a distance, the network of craters looks like ripples frozen mid-wave. A pond that was struck once and then turned to stone. That's what the moon truly is. The record of a single ripple that never stopped. The energy of ancient collisions still moves through its orbit, its tides, its light. The same force that made these marks still holds Earth and Moon together. There's something comforting about that permanence. On Earth, we measure time by change, by the passing of seasons, the growth of trees, the aging of faces. On the Moon, time is measured by stillness. What was, remains. And somehow, that unchanging nature feels like rest, a reminder that not everything must move to have meaning. If you think about it, we are surrounded by echoes of our own making, conversations, memories, stories, each one leaving its impression on the landscape of the mind. Most fade. But some, like the moon's craters, stay. The things that strike us hardest shape us longest, yet even those impacts can become part of beauty if time is kind enough. The moon proves that every scar can find peace if given silence. When you look up at it now, those circles gleam faintly through the atmosphere, softened by distance. You can't see the details, only the texture of age. And that's enough. You're not looking at damage, you're looking at endurance. Every crater that catches the light is an ancient yes whispered by the cosmos, an acceptance that even violence can become art when left to rest. The moon's face is not sad, it is serene. Every hollow and ridge is part of a pattern that no one planned, yet everyone recognizes. The next time you see it full, remember that you are seeing time itself, captured mid-breath, frozen echoes of creation, glowing softly against the black. There will always be new impacts. Tiny sparks of light flaring for an instant and fading. But the overall face will remain familiar, patient, and calm. The craters will keep their shape, and the silence will keep its promise. On the moon, nothing truly breaks. It only becomes part of the pattern. The moon always shows us the same face. No matter when you look, no matter where you stand, it turns one side toward Earth and keeps the other hidden. For billions of years, it has moved in perfect synchrony, one rotation for every orbit, locked in a slow, unbroken dance. It is a bond of gravity and grace, so precise that the same craters, the same shadows, the same pale seas have looked down on humanity since our beginning. But beyond that familiar silver circle lies another world, the far side, forever turned away. For most of history, no one had seen it. Poets imagined it as paradise, as wilderness, as mirror. Some called it the dark side. But it isn't dark at all. It receives the same sunlight. It simply keeps its secrets. It is not a place of shadow, but of privacy. When the first spacecraft orbited the Moon in 1959, it captured images of that hidden hemisphere. The pictures revealed a landscape utterly different from what we knew. Rugged, mountainous, filled with deep scars and high plateaus. Fewer of the broad, smooth plains we see from Earth. More peaks, more depth, more silence. It was as if the Moon had two faces, one calm and one raw, one looking outward and one inward. This duality is what makes the Moon feel human. We, too, have our visible selves, the side we show to others, and the far side, filled with private mountains and quiet shadows. Both are real. Both are beautiful. The far side of the Moon teaches that what we cannot see is often what holds our balance. The reason we never see it is simple physics. Tidal locking. Long ago, when the Moon was young and molten, Earth's gravity tugged on it unevenly, pulling slightly more on the near side. Over millions of years, those forces synchronized rotation and orbit until one hemisphere always faced home. It was not imprisonment, it was harmony. A partnership achieved through patience. Every night since then, the Moon's unseen side has faced outward into the deep. Imagine standing there, on that hidden half. The sky would look the same, a sea of black and stars, but Earth would be gone. Nowhere, on that horizon, would our blue planet rise. The night would feel larger, lonelier perhaps, but also purer. The silence would be absolute. The far side is where the universe sounds clearest, untouched by radio waves or human noise. Astronomers dream of building telescopes there, to listen to the cosmos without interference, to hear the original hum of creation. The far side's terrain is rough, scarred by ancient impacts that never healed. The crust there is thicker, as if it learned to protect itself. Some of the craters are so deep, they never see sunlight. Others catch it for only minutes at lunar dawn. Yet, even these hidden valleys reflect faint Earthlight when our world's globe bends around the Moon. So even in its solitude, it is never completely without our touch. When Apollo 8 orbited behind the Moon in 1968, the astronauts experienced something no human had before: radio silence. As their capsule passed into the far side shadow, communication with Earth was lost. For 47 minutes, they floated beyond all voices, out of reach. Later they said it was both eerie and sacred, like being inside eternity. When contact was restored, the first words transmitted were simple: "Hello, Houston. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus." Humor, relief, and wonder, the perfect human mix. To imagine the far side is to imagine perfect solitude. No tides, no blue glow of Earth, no familiar patterns of shadow. Only the distant sun rising over a jagged horizon, painting the rocks with long golden light. Every stone there has been touched by time but never by weather. Each ridge stands like a thought, unspoken, private, complete, undisturbed. Some of its craters carry the names of dreamers who never saw them: Tsiolkovsky, Hertzsprung, and others whose visions carried humanity beyond sight. Their names rest quietly in the dust, invisible from Earth but perfectly preserved tributes to curiosity itself. The Moon keeps them safe, as it keeps all things safe that fall into stillness. Scientists once believed the far side might be utterly alien, darker, denser, different in substance. Yet when samples from both sides were compared, they were nearly the same. The difference was not in material, but in experience: one side shielded, one side exposed. The Moon is whole, and every part of it belongs to the same story. There is comfort in that. Even the unseen belongs fully to the light. We all have a far side, the part that no one else witnesses, the terrain that faces the dark and listens quietly. It is not lesser, it is necessary. The Moon's balance depends on it. Without that hidden weight, its orbit would wobble, its light would falter. The same is true for us. Our hidden parts keep us steady. When you look at the full Moon, what you see is the result of that perfect balance. One side glowing, because the other side bears its silence. Every bright face depends on a shadowed one. Every reflection depends on an unseen depth. It's a law of physics, and also of peace. If you could stand on the border, the lunar line between near and far, where sunlight fades and shadow begins, you'd see both worlds at once. Earth rising to one side, the stars stretching endless on the other. You'd see the whole truth, that presence and absence are two halves of the same calm, that every connection contains distance, and every light has its companion silence. The far side of the moon doesn't hide from us. It balances us. It faces the universe, while we face it. It receives the same sunlight, endures the same nights, follows the same path. It simply does so unseen. And in that unseen state, it finds its purpose. Tonight, as you watch the moon from your window, remember that half of it is turned away, not gone, not lost, just private. Somewhere beyond your view, the other hemisphere rests beneath the same stars, holding its silence with dignity. It is the side that listens when the rest of the universe speaks. The moon's hidden face reminds us that mystery is not absence. It's presence we have yet to meet. And some presences are most beautiful when they remain quiet. If you've ever stood at the edge of the sea and watched the waves breathe in and out, you've already seen the moon's hand at work. The pull that lifts the ocean is invisible, ancient, and kind. It doesn't demand, it invites. The water listens, rises to meet the call, and then gently returns. It has done this for 4 billion years, a slow dance between gravity and grace. The tides are not caused by wind or storms or the turning of the earth, but by the quiet tug of the moon's gravity. Every drop of water feels that pull, however faintly. The side of Earth that faces the moon swells upward, drawn toward it. At the same time, the far side bulges outward, as the planet itself is tugged slightly away from its oceans. The result is two humps of water moving around the globe. A rhythm so large and slow we rarely feel it, yet it never stops. Twice each day, the ocean breathes. The shoreline shifts, sand darkens, shells glisten and dry. Fishermen know it by instinct. Birds time their flights to it. Even the smallest creatures in the tide pools live by it, their world changing shape every few hours, endlessly repeating, perfectly reliable. The moon is their clock, and in a quiet way, ours too. If you could see this process from space, you would watch the oceans rise and fall like the chest of a sleeping world. The tides move around the planet in great waves, thousands of kilometers long, following the moon's orbit like a shadow of blue. The Earth rotates beneath them, and together they form a rhythm older than mountains. Each pull transfers a little of Earth's spin to the moon's orbit, nudging it outward. And so, every breath the ocean takes carries the memory of motion, the same slow drift you heard about before. The moon's pull does not end with water. It touches the air, the ground, even the human body. The crust of the Earth itself rises and falls by centimeters each day, following the same gentle command. The atmosphere swells, the pressure shifts, and our own biology hums faintly in response. We are all, in small ways, tidal. Ancient people knew this long before science could explain it. They watched the connection between the moon and the sea, and saw in it a divine rhythm, the goddess drawing water from the earth, or the ocean bowing in devotion. They timed their journeys, their harvests, their stories to its phases. For them, the moon was not distant. It was the breath of the world itself. When you stand at the shore, under moonlight, the connection feels personal. You can hear it in the sound of waves curling and breaking, each one a quiet echo of the moon's pull. The foam that reaches your feet began its journey hundreds of kilometers away, summoned by gravity's invisible whisper. It's astonishing, really, that something so faint, acting across nearly 400,000 kilometers, can move entire oceans with such grace. At high tide, the world feels a little fuller. The air is denser, the sea higher, the horizon slightly changed. At low tide, the land breathes again, revealing what it hid. The moon choreographs this quiet exchange, reminding the planet to move, to release, to resume. Even the creatures that live between tides, barnacles, crabs, The soft anemones live by this rhythm, opening and closing like clocks made of flesh. Life itself grew from this movement. The first cells divided in tidal pools, warmed by the sun and stirred by the moon. Without this pull, life might never have learned to change. There's something tender in the thought that the same force that moves oceans also steadies your heartbeat. The same law of gravity that lifts the tide by a meter or two keeps the blood moving softly through your veins. When you stand by the water at night and feel your pulse in your wrist, it's the same rhythm scaled down, one body echoing another. You are part of that tide, whether you notice it or not. If you listen carefully to a calm shore beneath a bright moon, you might hear the world's oldest conversation. The sea speaks in motion. The moon answers in silence. It's a dialogue measured in centuries, yet renewed every second. The waves rise, pause, and fall, a language of gravity understood by all living things. Perhaps that's why humans find comfort by the water at night. It's where the body remembers the beginning. When the moon is full, tides grow higher. Spring tides, they're called, not for the season, but for the way they leap. When it's new, tides shrink, quieter, lower neap tides. When the moon and sun pull from opposite sides, balancing each other out. The pattern is perfect, precise, eternal. Even chaos has boundaries when the moon keeps time. From ancient sailors reading currents to modern scientists measuring millimeters, we have always followed this same rhythm. But beyond the data lies something simpler, a sense of belonging. The moon moves water, water moves life. Life looks back and whispers, "Thanks." It's the most natural cycle. There is motion giving birth to reflection, reflection giving birth to calm. When you imagine the moon's gravity, don't picture a rope pulling the seas upward. Imagine an embrace, a constant, invisible hug around the planet. It doesn't squeeze or demand. It holds. It keeps the oceans close enough to move, but far enough to flow. That's why tides never feel like force, they feel like breath. Even the sound of the sea carries the cadence of that gravity. The crash, the hiss, the pause, inhale, exhale, inhale again. If you slow your breathing to match it, you'll find yourself falling into the same rhythm the earth has known since its birth. It is not just the ocean's movement, it is the planet's meditation. So tonight, as you hear the faint echo of waves, or imagine them in your mind, think of the moon's hand, resting on the water, steady, patient, infinite. It has never stopped guiding the tide. It has never tired of the motion. Every ripple that reaches the shore is a signature of that unseen touch. The moon pulls, the ocean answers, and in between those two silences, the world breathes. That's gravity's gentlest truth. That connection does not require closeness, only care. The moon and the sea are proof that distance can still move us softly, endlessly, beautifully. Moonlight feels soft because it arrives filtered through distance, reflection, and silence. It carries the sun's warmth, but not its urgency, light, translated into calm. For millions of years, every creature that has slept beneath the open sky has known this glow. It is not simply brightness, it is rhythm, a whisper from the heavens that guides when to rest, when to wake, when to dream. Even today, under roofs and walls, that rhythm remains inside us. Human bodies are timekeepers, tuned to cycles older than civilization, the turn of the earth, the swing of the seasons, and the slow heartbeat of the moon. Its phases, repeating every 29.5 days, still echo through our biology like a memory we never lost. Long before clocks, people measured life by these phases. They planted by them, traveled by them, even slept by them. When the moon was full, they stayed awake a little longer, gathering and talking beneath its glow. When it disappeared into shadow, they withdrew, slept deeply, and dreamed. The lunar cycle became the pulse of the world's first calendar, not written in numbers, but in light. Modern science now finds traces of that ancient pattern in our bodies. Researchers studying sleep noticed that even in darkened rooms, away from windows, people tend to sleep differently depending on the phase of the moon. Around the full moon, it often takes longer to fall asleep, and dreams grow more vivid. Melatonin, the hormone that signals night to our cells, decreases slightly, as though the body still remembers that long-ago brightness. No one fully knows why. Perhaps it's instinct, an echo of ancestors who once kept watch by firelight under a full moon. Or perhaps it's simply the body's way of syncing with the changing sky, a whisper of awareness so subtle we never notice it. Whatever the reason, the effect is gentle, not disruptive. The moon doesn't command sleep, it harmonizes it. Think of it this way. The moon is the night's metronome. Its phases mark the tempo of rest and wakefulness. Its light gently nudges the rhythm of hormones that govern alertness, emotion, and dreaming. It doesn't control, it conducts. You are not its servant, but its instrument. If you've ever felt unusually thoughtful during a full moon, or strangely calm during its waning phase, that's part of the same pattern. Moonlight changes the world's tone. It softens edges, reshapes shadows, quiets the corners of the mind that daylight makes loud. Under it, thoughts slow, words lengthen, emotions unfold with less resistance. Writers have called moonlight the light of reflection, and perhaps that is literal. It's the only light that doesn't burn or blind, only invites. When the world is lit by it, even familiar things seem distant. A tree becomes a silhouette, a river becomes glass. This distance allows thought. Moonlight separates without severing, giving space between the world and the self. Our ancestors noticed how animals respond to this light too. Sea turtles hatch by it, birds migrate by it. Even coral reefs synchronize their spawning to the full moon, releasing their new life into the sea under its glow. Evolution has written the moon's calendar into countless species. We are simply one more participant, a creature whose sleep, emotion, and imagination follow the same tide. Psychologists studying human mood cycles have found hints of lunar rhythm there as well. Some people feel slightly more alert or restless during the full moon, more introspective as it wanes. The changes are subtle, like the lift of a wave or the hush that follows it. They are not superstitions, they are biology, playing softly in the background, reminding us that we are part of the sky, not separate from it. Moonlight also alters perception. Its cool tone lowers contrast, mutes color, and slows reaction time. The brain, accustomed to bright daylight, drifts into a gentler state. The result feels like dream logic, the same world, just quieter, stranger, more forgiving. That's why nights lit by the moon feel cinematic, why memories made under them linger longer. Our senses remember the softness. Even architecture once acknowledged this. In ancient temples and medieval towers, windows were placed to catch moonlight at particular angles. Monks wrote that reading by it felt like listening rather than seeing. Painters studied it to understand tone. Poets studied it to understand longing. To each generation, it became a mirror for emotion, light slow enough to match thought. There's a reason sleep and moonlight share language. Both are described as falling. We don't climb into sleep. We fall just as moonlight falls across fields and faces. It doesn't strike or arrive. It drifts. The body responds in kind, lowering heart rate, softening tension, letting go. The same photons that crossed space from the sun to the moon to you now signal every cell that it's time to rest. If you lie awake on a moonlit night, notice how the light moves across curtains, across the wall, across your hand. It changes nothing quickly. It simply exists, steady, kind. Each minute, it fades imperceptibly as the moon crosses the sky. Watching it is like watching time breathe. And perhaps that's the quiet secret of the moon's effect on sleep. It gives us a visible measure of night's passage. While the sun hides our motion by blinding us with light, the moon reveals it. It reminds us that everything moves slowly, the tides, the clouds, even our thoughts. Under its glow, you can feel life's pace return to something human. When the moon wanes, darkness deepens, dreams lengthen. The mind repairs itself in that absence. When it waxes again, the first slivers of light awaken curiosity, creativity, gentle energy. This cycle repeats endlessly, not to control you, but to carry you. The moon is less a clock than a cradle, rocking your sleep in time with its phases. So the next time you can't sleep, don't resist the moonlight. Let it in. Let it paint the ceiling, soften the air, calm the pulse behind your eyes. You are built to respond to it not as superstition, but as memory. The same light that guided your ancestors across oceans now crosses your room. It has traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers to arrive here, now, for you. Close your eyes, and the light remains not in sight, but in rhythm. The moon will move on, but its glow will stay inside, woven into the body's sense of time. And when sleep finally comes, it will come the way moonlight does, quietly, faithfully, and without hurry. Every movement in the universe follows a rhythm. The turning of planets, the beating of hearts, the rising of tides, the opening of flowers at dawn, all of it woven into one invisible pattern. The moon's cycle is just one thread in that vast tapestry, but it's the one we can see. It reminds us that everything alive shares one secret synchrony. Watch the night for a month, and you'll witness it. Darkness filling, light returning, fullness fading again. Waxing and waning, rest and renewal. The same rhythm lives in your pulse, your breath, your thoughts. Every inhalation is a waxing, every exhalation, a waning. The lungs mirror the lunar sky without realizing it. The ocean breathes to this rhythm to high tide, low tide, pause. Plants lean toward the moon's faint pull in microscopic motions. Even rocks expand and contract as temperatures shift with the phases of light. On every scale, from galaxies to grains of sand, motion becomes music. Science describes it as resonance systems vibrating together in harmony, each one amplifying the other's calm. When the moon moves the ocean moves the air cools the land, and the land steadies life. Nothing is isolated. Each part listens and responds, slower or faster, but always in time. The secret of stability isn't stillness, it's synchronization. Within you, the same cycles unfold. Hormones rise and fall like miniature tides. Emotions crest and settle. Sleep follows a rhythm of light and shadow, awareness and drift. Your brainwaves pulse in slow curves that mirror the moon's phases almost exactly. It's not mysticism, it's biology echoing astronomy. The body is a small planet made of memory and motion. When everything around you feels chaotic, it helps to remember that chaos also has rhythm, only wider, slower, harder to hear. The moon has watched continents drift. Species evolve, civilizations rise and fade, and yet its orbit has barely changed. Through all that noise, it kept time. That's what rhythm does. It carries peace through change. If you stand beneath a full moon and breathe with awareness, you can feel that steadiness spreading through the air. The light touches water, leaves, and skin at once. Photons scatter, waves move, lungs fill. For a moment, every scale of existence aligns: cosmic, planetary, personal. You are not merely under the moon, you are moving with it. The word month comes from moon, because the rhythm of life once followed its turning. Festivals, harvests, migrations, even music were timed to its phases. When humanity learned to measure hours instead, something quieter was lost. The comfort of long timing, of patience measured in light. But the synchrony still waits beneath the clocks. You can return to it any time, simply by slowing down enough to feel it. Close your eyes and imagine all the cycles overlapping. The earth turning beneath you once every 24 hours. The moon circling every 29.5 days. The earth circling the sun once each year. Beyond that, the sun orbiting the center of the galaxy every 200 million years. Layer upon layer of rhythm, none colliding, all aligned. The universe is not a machine, it's a choir. When you breathe deeply, you join that choir. The air entering you was once part of a tide, part of a wind that touched the sea the moon pulled. The exhale you release will rise, drift, and one day cool the same ocean again. The cycle includes you, just as surely as it includes planets and stars. Animals know this synchrony instinctively. Crabs march to the shore on the night of the full moon to release their eggs into the tide. Wolves howl in intervals that match lunar acoustics, their calls carrying farther in the thinner light. Even the flowers that bloom at night open in measured timing, saving fragrance for the hours when the moon is highest. None of them think. They remember. Perhaps peace comes from remembering too. Remembering that you are not separate from these patterns. Worry speeds time up. Wonder slows it back down. When you align your pace with the moon's, everything softens. The next moment stops rushing toward you. It arrives on schedule, like a wave that knows exactly where to break. The secret synchrony of cycles is that there is no single conductor. Each motion leads and follows at once. The moon pulls the earth. The earth steadies the moon. The tide shapes the coast. The coast shapes the tide. Sleep heals thought. Thought dreams sleep. Everything circles everything else, and the music never stops. That realization can change how you feel the night. You don't have to master it or understand it. Just noticing it is enough. You might sense it in your heartbeat, in the sway of trees under faint wind, in the pause between two breaths. That pause is the same silence that exists between the moon's rise and the sun's return. The moment when all rhythms overlap perfectly. If you listen closely, even time itself has a sound, a slow pulse under everything. It's there in the ocean's murmur, in the far hum of the city at night, in the blood moving through your ears. That sound is synchrony made audible. You've heard it all your life, you just forgot its name. When the moon completes another orbit and the same phase returns, nothing is identical, yet nothing is lost. Each cycle carries traces of the last. That is how growth hides inside repetition, how evolution happens without haste. The secret is that progress can look like peace. So tonight, let your breathing follow this ancient metronome. Inhale as the tide rises. Exhale as it falls. Let thought wax and wane like the light above. You are not separate from the cosmos watching you sleep. You are the cosmos resting within itself. The moon turns, the earth turns, your pulse turns. The same law holds them all together. Call it gravity, call it grace, it means the same thing. Connection without collision. Everything that moves does so in time with everything else. And that is the secret synchrony of cycles. The quiet truth that beneath every motion lies harmony, beneath every breath, belonging, beneath every night, the promise of dawn. Long before the first telescope turned upward, people looked at the moon and saw faces, figures, and light that seemed to breathe. The night sky was a storybook, and the moon its most beloved character. It shone not with the fire of the gods, but with their gentler reflections, a softer divinity, close enough to whisper to. Every culture gave it a name, and every name meant almost the same thing. Peace, guidance, time, memory. In the myths of Mesopotamia, the moon was Sin, the quiet lord of rhythm. He rowed his silver boat across the heavens each night, measuring time by his travel. While the sun ruled day with heat and order, Sin governed night with calm and understanding. The people of Ur built temples to him, not to beg for favor, but to align their lives with his patience. Every month began when he first appeared, a thin smile of light in the dusk, the world's oldest calendar. In Egypt, the moon was Thoth, the wise one, keeper of words and magic. It was said he counted the stars and recorded the passage of souls. His glow was the light of thought itself, cool, deliberate, endlessly patient. When the sun grew too proud, Thoth would rise, restoring balance with reason. Even their gods needed contrast. One bright, one calm, one blazing, one reflective. The Egyptians called this balance Ma'at, harmony, that keeps the world from chaos. The Greeks imagined the moon as Selene, a goddess of serene motion. Each night she rose from the horizon, driving a chariot of pale horses across the sky. Her light was so soft that it lulled the world to sleep as she passed. They said she fell in love with a mortal named Endymion, who slept eternally under her gaze. She visited him every night, touching his face with light so he would dream forever. It's a story less about romance than tenderness, the divine watching over mortal rest. In Japan, the moon was Tsukuyomi, a quiet and disciplined spirit born from the washing of a god's hand. Unlike fiery deities of the sun or storm, Tsukuyomi embodied reflection, dignity, and stillness. Festivals were held beneath the full moon to give thanks for harvests, not with shouting but with silent admiration. People sat by rivers, gazing at the moon's image, trembling in the water, understanding without words that perfection requires motion and rest together. For the Chinese, the moon belonged to Chang'e, the goddess who drank an elixir of immortality and floated upward, leaving her lover behind. She lives alone on the moon still, accompanied by a jade rabbit who mixes the elixir of life. Yet in every version of her story, she is not sorrowful. She looks down upon the world each night, glowing with compassion, the embodiment of longing made gentle. Even separation becomes beauty under moonlight. In India, the moon was Chandra, god of cool light and rejuvenation. His brightness was said to soothe the heat of the day and heal the minds of those who wandered too long beneath the Sunday Chandra road. Across the heavens, in a shining chariot, pulled by white horses. His presence was believed to restore balance to body and soul. In the ancient texts, he is described not as powerful, but as nourishing. His light was food for the spirit. Calm poured from the sky. The Mayans saw the moon as a weaver, Ixchel, the goddess who spun light into patterns of destiny. She controlled rain, fertility, and medicine, sitting within the crescent as if it were her loom. When clouds covered her face, people said she was changing the design of the world's tapestry. Her light was the shimmer of new beginnings, the pattern not yet revealed. Everywhere, the moon took on human tenderness. It was mother, healer, witness, companion. It didn't demand sacrifice. It offered attention. People prayed not for wealth or war, but for good dreams, safe journeys, steady tides. The moon's worship was less about fear and more about gratitude. An ancient thank you whispered through generations. Thank you for being there when everything else disappears. Even today, when we know it is dust and rock, the old feeling remains. We still call it she, still speak of its face, still say it watches over us. Science didn't erase myth. It revealed why the myth felt true. The moon does measure time. It does guide tides. It does watch silently, changing but dependable. Everything people imagined was metaphor for real motion. Myth was simply the mind's way of singing science before science had a name. There's comfort in knowing that every culture, separated by oceans and centuries, looked at the same light and felt the same thing. Connection, calm, wonder without fear. A shepherd in ancient Greece, a priest in Egypt, a mother in China, all paused to see the same silver glow and felt smaller, safer, softer. The moon became the world's shared lullaby. If you imagine those nights, the fires, the stories, the faces turned upward, you realize that every myth was an act of love toward the unknown. The people who told them were not trying to explain, they were trying to belong. The moon was their answer to loneliness. And even now, thousands of years later, it remains ours. When you watch it tonight, you're continuing that same tradition. You don't have to believe in gods or rabbits or chariots. Just look. The light that touched their faces touches yours. The same rhythm they worshipped still moves your tides, your sleep, your imagination. You are part of the same story, the great, gentle mythology of being alive under something constant. The moon has never demanded devotion. It has only asked that we notice it. To see it is to remember how small worries really are against the calm of cosmic repetition. The gods may have faded, but their light remains, crossing the same sky, touching the same hearts, whispering the same quiet blessing. Rest. You are seen. You belong to the light that waits through the dark. Every night, the moon looks down and sees the ocean, waiting. From its quiet perch in the sky, it watches the water shimmer in reply, waves stretching upward as if to touch that distant light. Between them lies a silence of 400,000 kilometers, a space too vast for sound, yet filled with connection. The moon cannot speak, and the sea cannot climb, but their love moves the world. The story begins at the dawn of time, when the earth was still molten and the seas had only begun to form. The moon circled close, glowing red from birth, and the waters rose to meet it. Each time it passed overhead, the tides followed, drawn by its pull, learning to move in rhythm. It was the first dance the planet ever knew. In myth, people said the moon fell in love with the sea because it was the only thing that could reflect its light. Every night, it sent its glow downward, and every night the water answered. The ocean became the moon's mirror, restless, faithful, endlessly changing, yet always returning that silver gaze. When clouds hid the sky, the moon's light still lingered in the waves, broken into ripples that carried its memory. The sea, too, fell in love. It began to move to the moon's rhythm, rising, falling, sighing against the shore. Every tide was a reach, every wave a touch that never quite arrived. In this way, love found a form that could never be fulfilled and never end. It became motion, endless and gentle. The earth learned balance through that longing. To the moon, the sea must look alive, its surface catching and scattering light like laughter. To the sea, the moon must look eternal, calm, patient, watching from afar. Together they form the most enduring duet in nature. One shining, one shimmering, one pulling, one yielding. It is not possession, but harmony. The moon asks nothing, and the ocean gives everything. Every culture noticed this silent relationship and told its own version of the same tale. Polynesian navigators spoke of the moon as the sea's compass, showing it where to go. In Greek myth, Selene's light was said to stir the waves when she wept for her sleeping lover. The Japanese saw the moon's reflection in the water as a bridge between heaven and earth, a path of light for spirits to travel. In every telling, the emotion was the same. Tenderness stretched across distance. Science calls it gravity, but the name doesn't matter. The feeling is what remains. The moon's pull on the sea is so precise, it can lift an entire ocean without breaking a single shell. It is a love made of restraint, powerful enough to move the world, gentle enough to let it rest. When the tide retreats, it is not rejection, only breathing. The sea must exhale to rise again. If you've ever stood at the shore during a full moon, you've seen their reunion. The waves glow white, alive with reflected fire. The horizon becomes a silver path, stretching straight toward the sky, as if inviting you to walk across it. That's the moment when Earth's two oldest companions face each other directly. The moon shines at its fullest. The sea answers at its highest. And the night feels balanced, whole, and infinite. Even when storms rage and clouds hide the sky, the connection continues beneath. The tides keep moving, unseen but unstoppable. Love, it seems, does not need light to find its way. It only needs memory, and the sea remembers. Every tide is the continuation of the first touch, the echo of an embrace that never ended. If you could slow time to the moon's pace, you would see how their rhythm governs everything else. Coral reefs release their eggs when the moon is full. Sea turtles crawl from sand to light. Plankton rise and fall through the depths in nightly tides, feeding the oceans in perfect timing. Entire ecosystems move to this invisible pulse. The moon and the sea are not just lovers, they are the parents of life. In some Polynesian legends, when the moon wanes, it is said to dive into the ocean to rest. The dark phase is their reunion beneath the waves, a moment of invisible peace. When it reappears, reborn and glowing, the sea sighs again, lifting its tides in greeting. The world watches this endless cycle without realizing it is watching affection disguised as physics. Perhaps that is why moonlit beaches feel different. The air is thicker with meaning, the waves slower, the light stretched longer across the sand. It's as if the whole shore is aware of the gaze above it, a planet caught in a quiet conversation with its satellite, an ocean listening to a sky. Even poets who never studied science understood this truth. They wrote of the moon, calling the sea lover, of the sea, answering always. Every language, every age, every heart has recognized it, not because of data, but because of feeling. We sense their dialogue in our own tides, in the way emotions rise and fall, in the way longing moves but never ends. The body is 70% water, and perhaps that's why we respond so deeply to the moon's pull. Our hearts, too, are tiny oceans. When you next see the moon reflected in water, a puddle, a river, a teacup, remember that you're witnessing an ancient gesture, light and liquid, distance and desire, perfectly matched. The same dance that began before life existed still continues, slow and unbroken. The waves climb, the moon leans closer, and between them lies the most beautiful silence in the universe. The moon will never touch the sea. The sea will never reach the moon. And yet, because of that distance, their movement never stops. It is the perfect love story, not of completion, but of continuation. A love so patient it becomes gravity itself. And that, perhaps, is what makes the night so peaceful. Knowing that above every shore, the moon and the sea are still there, holding each other in motion, proving that even longing can be gentle, even distance can create connection, even silence can become song. When you look at the moon, you are never just looking outward. Something in that pale circle always looks back. It's not eyes or face or mind, it's reflection. Light travels hundreds of thousands of kilometers, touches dust older than life, and returns to touch you. In that moment, the moon becomes a mirror, not of your body, but of your quietest thoughts. Perhaps that's why people talk to it. For centuries, lovers, poets, and wanderers have lifted their eyes and spoken aloud to the moon, as if it could keep secrets. They weren't wrong. The moon hears without judging, answers without sound, remembers without recording. Its patience is endless, and patience is the truest form of listening. At night, when the world has emptied of noise, the moon becomes the shape of solitude itself. Yet it is a friendly solitude, not loneliness, but presence. You can feel it above the rooftops, over oceans, resting gently on mountains. It belongs equally to everyone, yet it feels personal. No matter where you stand, it seems to hover just for you. Maybe that illusion of closeness is what allows us to see ourselves in it. We, too, change by phases, moments of brightness, moments of shadow, periods of renewal. The moon's surface never truly alters, only the way it receives light does. In that, it teaches the simplest philosophy of being, that you don't need to shine all the time to remain whole. Half light is still light. Darkness is not absence, it's rest. The ancients drew this lesson without naming it. They called the moon divine because it waxed and waned yet always returned. Today, we call that resilience. The language changed, the comfort didn't. Watching the moon reminds us that retreat is natural, that stillness is not failure but preparation. Even reflection requires darkness to begin. Sometimes, when thoughts scatter, when worry runs in circles, the moon offers an answer too soft to quote. Its silence slows the mind. Its steadiness resets the scale of importance. Beneath its light, small, fears lose their edges, ambitions quiet to a hum. The brain, overloaded by daylight, finally exhales. The moon's calm is contagious. If you could stand on its surface and look back at Earth, you'd see something familiar, a blue and white marble glowing against blackness. That, too, would look like a mirror. The sight would reveal how delicate we are, one bright reflection, floating in darkness. Perspective becomes humility, and humility, in turn, becomes peace. Artists have always painted the moon as emotion. In Japanese ink scrolls, it floats above water like a single thought above stillness. In Renaissance art, it hovers near saints as a symbol of purity. In modern photography, it rises over cities like memory, rising over time. Each image says the same thing. This is how the heart looks when it remembers to be quiet. Even language bends toward it. We say moonstruck for dreamers, lunacy for minds unmoored, moonlight for tenderness. All the words hold contradiction, madness, and calm, distance, and intimacy, because the moon itself holds both. It is unreachable yet familiar, cold yet comforting, far yet reflected in every puddle. That paradox is the same one we carry inside, to be fragile and infinite at once. When psychologists speak of reflection, they mean awareness. The moon has become the planet's symbol for it, the reminder that seeing clearly requires distance. Its light doesn't burn, it reveals softly. It allows shapes to remain themselves while still being seen. Imagine if we looked at ourselves that way, without glare, without judgment, with enough darkness around the edges for grace. Children sense this naturally. They point to the moon, wave, and believe it follows them. In a sense, it does. The orbit keeps pace with Earth's spin, so the moon seems to move as we move a companion step for step. The feeling never really fades. Adulthood just hides it behind logic. But somewhere, that trust remains. The comfort of a light that never quite leaves. The moon also reflects memory. Each time you look at it, your mind overlays every other time you've seen it, moments with people you loved, nights alone, journeys that began or ended under its glow. It collects your personal history, folds it into the light, and returns it slightly gentler. That's why nostalgia often arrives with moonrise, memories softened by distance. If emotions had a color, moonlight would be it, a blend of everything, but bright enough to guide you home. It touches water and stone, cloud and skin, without preference. It erases boundaries the way sleep erases time. Under it, the world looks unified, different things, lit by the same glow. That vision, fleeting and serene, is what inner peace feels like. In quiet hours, when the moon hangs high and thought grows slow, you might sense the universe looking inward through you. That awareness, that small, calm ache, is the mirror at work. It shows not who you were or will be, but who you are when everything unnecessary has fallen away. The reflection isn't an image, it's a feeling. The moon's power isn't control, it's permission. Permission to rest, to change, to not shine constantly. Permission to be seen imperfectly and still be beautiful. It tells us that reflection itself is enough, that simply noticing the light and the dark within is a form of wholeness. When clouds cover it, the moon doesn't vanish. The light remains, diffused, gentle as breath. That's how self-understanding works too. Unseen for a while, never lost. The calm returns the moment you look again. So tonight, as the moon rises, whether you can see it or only feel it, take a breath and imagine it as your mirror. Let its glow reveal the parts of you that are quiet but alive. Let it remind you that brightness need not be loud, that reflection need not be sharp, that peace often looks like silver on water. The moon does not ask for attention, it offers companionship. And maybe that's all anyone really needs. Not answers, not promises, just something that reflects their light back softly and says, "You are still here, and you are enough." In July of 1969, the world held its breath. Not in fear, but in wonder, the kind of silence that only happens when millions of hearts slow together. On a small screen, glowing in dark rooms, humanity watched a shape descend through dustless air. It was not a comet or a meteor. It was us. The spacecraft's name was Eagle, its legs unfolded like those of an insect, cautious and deliberate. Inside, two men floated in a chamber no larger than a bedroom, surrounded by buttons and wires. The voice that guided them from Earth sounded calm, almost sleepy, as if the whole event were part of some cosmic lullaby. The moon filled the window gray, endless, familiar, and foreign all at once. When the lander touched down, there was no thunder, no plume of smoke, only a puff of dust rising into eternity. In that moment, silence gained a new dimension. For the first time, a human heartbeat echoed on another world. The words that followed were simple: "The Eagle has landed." But what those words truly meant was this: the dream of the species had found a place to rest. Hours later, when Neil Armstrong stepped down the ladder, the world seemed to pause entirely. He moved slowly, his motions fluid and cautious, as if wading through the surface of a dream. His boot pressed into fine powder that had never known touch. The imprint stayed. It will likely remain for millions of years. A single human step made permanent in silence. The camera outside the lander trembled faintly as it transmitted the first moving images from another world. People on Earth saw a figure standing beneath a black sky, holding a flag that did not wave. In living rooms, children sat cross-legged on carpets. Old men leaned closer to radios. There were no borders that night, no rivals, no noise, only a planet listening to its own echo from the sky. Armstrong's words were small, measured, almost reluctant to disturb the stillness. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Even now. They sound like a prayer, whispered so softly the universe might keep it. When his companion, Buzz Aldrin, joined him, he described the view with a phrase that still feels accurate. Magnificent desolation. Magnificent for the beauty. Desolation for the honesty. They planted a flag not in conquest but in recognition, a gesture more ceremonial than proud. Around them, the horizon curved close, gentle, intimate. The earth hung above the lander blue, white, small enough to hide behind a thumb. Home had never looked so fragile. Later, Armstrong would say that the sight made him feel both humbling insignificance and profound belonging. To see the whole world at once was to understand its unity. For 2.5 hours, they moved across that ancient dust, gathering rocks, setting instruments, photographing shadows. Every motion seemed careful, reverent, slow. Even the smallest experiment, a seismometer, a foil panel to catch solar wind, was placed with almost meditative attention. It was as though they feared to wake the world beneath their feet. Inside their helmets, breathing sounded loud. The radio crackled. Each word from Houston crossed space in little more than a second. Yet that pause, that delay, gave every sentence gravity. It was humanity speaking to itself across 250,000 miles, learning how quiet the cosmos truly was. When they climbed back into the module and prepared to leave, Aldrin glanced once more at the footprints below. He said they looked unreal, like shadows that refused to move. Then the engine fired, soundless in vacuum, and the craft lifted, leaving those footprints undisturbed, the only motionless testimony of life on a lifeless world. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. But in the lunar orbit above, Michael Collins, the third astronaut, drifted alone. Each time the capsule passed behind the moon, he became the most isolated human in history. No voice reached him, no signal, no light from Earth. Yet he later said he never felt lonely. "I felt awareness, wonder, satisfaction," he wrote. "I was part of a pattern larger than myself." That awareness, that quiet fulfillment, was perhaps the real discovery. When the astronauts returned, the world cheered, but the men themselves spoke softly. They described not conquest, but perspective. The moon was not a prize, it was a mirror. Looking back at Earth, they saw unity, oceans blending into continents, weather moving like breath. "We came all this way to explore the moon," one of them said, "and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth." For a while, more missions followed. 12 humans in total walked on lunar soil, yet each spoke afterward with the same subdued tone. They expected adventure and found stillness. They expected distance and found connection. Standing on the moon, they realized the universe is not cold, it is calm. Since then, decades have passed. The footprints remain. The flag still stands, bleached white by unfiltered sunlight. The instruments long silent, the dust untouched. But that moment, the moment when humanity placed itself within the landscape of the sky, continues to ripple through time. It was proof that curiosity can be gentle, that exploration can coexist with humility. In every photograph from that journey, there is a strange comfort. The astronauts' reflections glint in their visors, tiny humans surrounded by eternity. They seem not brave or grand, but peaceful figures suspended between gravity and grace. To walk on the moon was to learn that even in the greatest silence, there can be companionship. Between thought and wonder, between home and horizon. Now, when you see the moon rising, imagine those first steps, still their prints resting beneath a light older than memory. They are not symbols of dominance, but of arrival. Humanity's reflection, gentle and enduring, pressed into the quiet face of a world. that waited patiently for our touch. The first beings who walked on light taught us something we still forget: that progress is not loud, and discovery need not shout. Sometimes, the most extraordinary moment in history sounds like a heartbeat inside a helmet, slow, steady, and awed by its own smallness. When the last astronaut climbed back into the lunar module, the moon did not change. The dust settled quickly, the shadows held still, and the horizon remained untouched. Yet, beneath that eternal calm, something delicate had shifted, not in the moon, but in us. We had left a message there. Several, in fact, tiny objects scattered across the surface like whispers to the future. On the Sea of Tranquility, near where Armstrong and Aldrin once stood, lies a small plaque fixed to the lander's leg. It reads, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." The words are engraved in metal, exposed to vacuum, destined to last longer than any monument on Earth. There is no air, no rain, no corrosion, only time, vast and silent, holding those words in place. Beside it rests a small golden olive branch, the same symbol carried by doves in ancient art, the emblem of peace. It was left not as a declaration, but as an offering, humanity's gesture of gentleness to a world that could never return it. No one will ever pick it up. It will never decay. It will simply wait, bathed in endless sunlight, a promise made eternal by silence. Each Apollo mission left something behind, a trail of artifacts, like breadcrumbs through history. Seismometers to measure moonquakes, reflectors to bounce laser beams from Earth, flags, now white from radiation, tools dropped, cameras left where they fell, footprints arranged like constellations, even a family photo. Astronaut Charles Duke placed a picture of his wife and children on the surface in 1972. In the photo, they smile from a world of blue. The plastic frame lies there still, untouched by wind or weather, a portrait frozen in forever dust. There are also messages from Earth itself, a tiny silicon disc left by Apollo 11, engraved with greetings from 73 nations. It carries words in dozens of languages, each one saying the same thing: peace, friendship, hope. The handwriting of the human race, sealed beneath layers of glass, waiting for eyes that may never come. It is our planet's softest voice, carried farther than any before. Astronauts also left the badges of fallen colleagues, a small memorial for those who died preparing the journey. On the Apollo 15 mission, a sculptor's tiny figure, a stylized human, was placed among the dust, along with a list of names of astronauts and cosmonauts lost to spaceflight. The sculpture is simple, faceless, only a few inches long, but it embodies something vast: remembrance without possession. It lies in repose, half buried, as if sleeping. Think of that, somewhere on the moon, a sleeping statue of humanity, resting beneath a sky that never changes. It has no guardian, no visitor, no sound, and yet it endures as one of our most honest symbols. We reached for the stars, not to conquer, but to leave gratitude behind. There's a poetic symmetry in that. For thousands of years, humans looked up and imagined gods, lovers, rabbits, or faces on the moon. When we finally arrived, we didn't carve our names into its surface or build monuments. We left tiny things that say, "We were here, and we meant no harm." It is perhaps the first time a species has met another world with humility. Even the dust remembers us. Each footprint, though shallow, will likely survive for millions of years. The particles that lifted during our steps will take centuries to fall back. Somewhere, they are still drifting in low arcs above the surface, carrying the memory of motion. Human dust moving through lunar light, a quiet metaphor for all of us. When sunlight hits those footprints, the shadows remain crisp, the angles unchanged since the moment of creation. On Earth, erosion would erase them in hours. On the moon, they have become fossils of action. Every print is a word written in the oldest language there is: presence. Among the most beautiful of the objects left behind is a small American flag placed during Apollo 11. Decades later, when later missions passed overhead, the astronauts could still see its shadow, though bleached to white. It's no longer a symbol of a nation, just a rectangle of cloth preserved by airlessness, fluttering nowhere, glowing softly in the morning light. There are other remnants too. Tools, descent stages, tire tracks from the lunar rover. But more significant than all of them is what cannot be seen: the emotional residue of awe. The feeling left behind by those who looked back at Earth and realized its fragility. Every astronaut described that view in the same words: beautiful, fragile, alive. It's as if standing on another world made them love this one more deeply. That, too, is a message for the future. Not a physical one, but a lesson embedded in perspective. When you step far enough away, everything that divides you disappears. All that remains is light, color, and connection. The plaque on the moon is small, but its meaning is planetary. We came in peace for all mankind, a phrase simple enough to outlast language. The objects we left will likely outlive us all. Long after continents shift and civilizations fade, they'll remain quiet, waiting, surrounded by the same still light. Perhaps someday, distant descendants or curious travelers will find them. They will touch that plaque, that photo, that tiny sculpture, and realize what kind of creatures we were. Flawed, hopeful, gentle when we tried. There's something deeply human about leaving a trace that no one may ever see. It is an act of faith. Faith that meaning persists without witness. That kindness is valuable, even in silence. The moon holds that faith for us now, cradled in dust and eternity. Imagine it tonight. The golden branch resting untouched, the footprints preserved like sighs, the small metal letters quietly catching sunlight as the earth rises above them, all of it waiting in stillness. Proof that even in our reaching, we remembered to be humble. We sent machines and men, but what we truly left was a whisper. We were here. We meant peace. We hope someone, someday, will know we tried to be kind. When the astronauts looked back from the moon, they saw something no human had ever truly seen before. The whole of home. Not a country, not a continent, but an entire world, round and fragile, suspended in silence. Against the endless black of space, it shone like a single drop of water catching light. It was beautiful. It was alive. It was everything. They described it later as the most emotional sight of the entire journey. Not the moon beneath their feet, but the earth turning, slowly, glowing softly. Its blues and whites swirling like breath on glass. The sight stole language. It replaced patriotism with perspective. From that distance, no borders existed, no divisions, no lines of ownership, just weather, ocean, cloud, and the faint shadow of continents where people slept, unaware that someone was watching from the stars. Michael Collins, circling alone above the moon, said that seeing Earth made him feel not small but whole. He could cover it with a thumb, yet knew that behind that tiny curve lay every human being who had ever lived, everyone he had ever loved, every story, every laughter, every sorrow, all of it, contained within that glowing sphere. The thing about the Earth, he said, is that it's alive. That realization became known as the overview effect, a quiet shift in consciousness that astronauts experience when they see the planet from space. It is not a shock. It is a soft unfolding, a sudden awareness of connection. They describe it as awe, mixed with tenderness. The understanding that the Earth is not beneath you but within you. That everything breathing shares one fragile shell of air. Looking back from the moon, they saw no edges, no separation between land and sea, only unity drawn in color and motion. The Pacific's deep blues, the swirling white of clouds, the faint green trace of forests. The planet seemed to glow from within, like a lantern lit in the void. It was both infinite and impossibly small, the size of a memory. One photograph captured that feeling better than words. It was taken on Christmas Eve, 1968, by astronaut Bill Anders during Apollo 8, the first humans to orbit the moon. As their spacecraft rose above the gray horizon, the Earth appeared suddenly in view, half in sunlight, half in shadow. He raised his camera and clicked. The image became known as Earthrise. In that photo, the moon's surface is barren and colorless, yet just above it floats Earth blue, white, alive. Every living thing, every voice, every dream exists in that delicate sphere. The contrast is almost overwhelming. It reminds you that life is not the rule of the universe, but its exception. The photograph spread around the world and changed how humanity saw itself. For the first time, we saw home as one. Environmental movements, peace campaigns, and new philosophies all trace their roots to that single image. The earth looked finite, precious, soft enough to bruise. People realized that to protect it was not politics, but tenderness. An act of self-care for a planet that shelters all of us. Astronauts later said they went to explore the moon, but discovered the Earth instead. That discovery was emotional, not scientific. It was empathy scaled to a globe. Imagine what it must have felt like standing on lunar dust, looking up, and realizing you are staring at everyone. Every childhood, every sunrise, every whispered conversation all contained in that distant marble. The distance didn't create isolation. It created belonging. For the first time, humanity could see the house it shared. The moon's surface offered a silence so deep it bordered on sacred. No wind, no sound, no movement, only the heartbeat of one's own body inside a suit. Against that silence, Earth pulsed with life. Oceans shimmered, clouds flowed. It was a reminder that home is the anomaly, that silence is the norm of the cosmos. And we are the rare places that sing. Some astronauts said the experience made them want to cry, though they didn't know why. Others said it felt like looking at a baby, fragile, innocent, in need of care. The Earth seemed to ask for gentleness simply by existing. It glowed, not as power, but as vulnerability. That glow has a name, albedo, the light the Earth reflects. It's not brightness, it's borrowed light, like kindness given, shared, returned. When the astronauts came home, they often found it difficult to describe the feeling. "I left as an American," one said, "and returned as an Earthling." Another said, "You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation." What they discovered on the moon was perspective, that from far away, all differences blur into unity. The world becomes what it always was, one luminous body moving through darkness. The photograph of Earthrise became the planet's mirror. People saw themselves reflected in it and realized how intertwined everything truly is. The rivers in that picture are the blood of the same organism. The clouds, its breath. The forests, its lungs. Every human, every animal, every blade of grass, part of the same story, turning slowly together. The moon, silent as always, gave us that view without comment. It didn't ask for thanks. It simply reflected the light that let us see ourselves. That is its gift, to hold a mirror high enough that we can finally look back with clarity. Sometimes, when the sky is clear, and to see the moon hanging above the horizon, remember, from that world, someone once stood and looked back at us. From there, you were part of a blue glow in the dark, a piece of something fragile and infinite. You still are. The next time you feel small beneath the night sky, imagine the reverse, the view from the moon. You are not small. You are the brightness itself, the light that fills the universe's silence, the heartbeat inside its stillness. You are Earth, looking back at itself. When we ran out of ways to measure the moon, we began to dream about it. It became the screen for our imagination, the place where wishes, symbols, and stories could live without consequence. Every age, every culture, every artist has painted it differently, but always with the same intention: to understand themselves through its light. The moon is the only object in the sky that feels personal. The sun commands, the moon listens. It doesn't burn or blind. It waits. It reflects. It allows. That quiet nature has always drawn the human mind toward it. In its phases, we recognize our moods. In its light, our gentler thoughts. It is the original mirror of imagination, vast enough to hold everything we cannot say. When ancient poets wrote their first verses, They often began with the moon. It was both companion and metaphor. Sappho, from the island of Lesbos, called it the silver companion of solitude. Li Bai, in ancient China, wrote of raising a cup of wine and drinking with the moon as his friend. Basho, in Japan, called moonlight a second silence, something to walk within rather than describe. The poets didn't compete to capture it. They shared it, a collaboration between human language and cosmic patience. Even now, every art form returns to it. Painters use its glow to study shadow. Composers use its rhythm to write calm. Debussy's Clair de Lune, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, each a soft translation of reflection into sound. Film directors bathe their scenes in lunar blue to slow the viewer's heart rate, to create the illusion of stillness inside motion. Every artist who seeks peace eventually finds their way to the moon. Dreamers, too, have always felt its pull. Psychologists once suggested that the moon influences dreams, not through light, but through association, a symbol of the mind's nocturnal landscape. When you dream beneath it, you are borrowing its rhythm, slow, reflective, repetitive, yet endlessly creative. The phases of the moon and the cycles of dreaming share the same timing, roughly 29 nights. A complete circle of restoration. The body, it seems, remembers art even in sleep. Children see faces in the moon because imagination needs reflection. Their minds project warmth onto distance, and in return, distance becomes friendly. The man in the moon, the rabbit in the moon, the smiling face, each is the same act of tenderness, giving personality to what watches over us. We name it so it can name us back. In the 1600s, Galileo pointed his telescope at the moon and saw mountains and craters where others had seen gods. Yet what he truly discovered wasn't geology. It was wonder that survived understanding. The closer he looked, the more beautiful it became. Even when myth gave way to measurement, imagination didn't vanish, it evolved. The moon shifted from divine mystery to shared metaphor, the meeting place of science and poetry. Writers continued to visit. Cyrano de Bergerac imagined traveling there in a wooden rocket. Jules Verne dreamed of cannon launches and silver airships. Later, filmmakers built glowing cardboard moons and shot rockets into their painted faces. Georges Méliès' A Trip to the Moon became cinema's first fantasy, proving that creativity could orbit curiosity forever. The moon has always represented possibility, but not the loud kind. It's the quiet promise that what we imagine today might someday exist. Before we walked on it, we wrote about it. Before we mapped it, we dreamed of it. And even after we arrived, the dreaming didn't stop, it deepened. Because once we saw it up close, we realized that imagination had not exaggerated its beauty. It had merely prepared us to understand it. Artists say the moon gives them calm courage, the permission to create without demand. Its light asks for nothing in return. It illuminates equally the grand cathedral and the empty field. To paint by moonlight is to work beside the universe itself, quietly, collaboratively. There is no rush, only presence. Musicians often describe writing nocturnal music as listening to the moon. It's less composition than translation. The rhythm of the tide, the pulse of heartbeats, the soft wave of emotion. All of it moves in that same 4/4 time nature prefers. Rise, rest, fall, rise again. Every lullaby is, in a sense, moon music. Even scientists, those most tethered to data, admit to its beauty. Astronomers speak of earth shine, the faint glow that the Earth's reflection casts back onto the moon's dark side. They call it the old moon in the new moon's arms. It's light that has traveled from the sun to Earth to moon and back again, the same photons, looping between worlds. Science calls it reflection. Poets call it devotion. When imagination looks for peace, it turns upward. That's why so many stories begin with a glance at the night sky. The moon reminds us that creation doesn't come from pressure, but from patience. You don't force inspiration, you orbit it, again and again, until reflection turns into clarity. If you've ever sat awake, sketching, writing, or simply thinking while the world sleeps, you've shared in that same ritual. The moon doesn't inspire through brightness, but through balance, enough light to see, enough darkness to dream. It tells the artist, you are not alone in your solitude. That's why even now, in cities where stars are hidden by haze, people still look for the moon. It's our last visible connection to cosmic rhythm. A soft punctuation mark reminding us that even imagination follows natural law. Expansion, rest, return. The moon in dreams and art is not an escape from reality. It's an echo of it. A reflection of the same calm that exists in atoms, in tides, in thought. The same calm that shaped everything we love. So tonight, if your mind is restless, let it drift there. Imagine the moon as a blank page, and your thoughts as silver ink. Whatever you feel, wonder, sorrow, hope, will find its reflection waiting. The moon doesn't answer questions, it gives them space to breathe. And that is the quiet miracle of imagination, that even in darkness, the mind continues to glow. Just like the moon, we shine by reflection, by remembering that we are lit by something greater than ourselves. Before clocks, before calendars, before numbers carved meaning into stone, there was the moon. It was the first metronome the human eye could trust. No matter how the seasons changed or the stars shifted, the moon always returned thin as a thread, round as a song, gone, then back again. Its rhythm was the earliest proof that time moves not in lines, but in circles. When early humans lifted their faces to the night, they didn't measure time in hours or days. They felt it through hunger, through cold, through the change in light. And the moon gave shape to that feeling. Every phase became a mood. Crescent for beginning, full for fullness, dark for rest. They learned that each moment of brightness would fade, and each shadow would lift. Time, they realized, was not a thief but a caretaker. The first calendars were carved into bone-notched marks, tracking the moon's return. One ancient piece, found in the valley of the Somme in France, dates back 30,000 years. It bears the repeating pattern of crescents, scratched by stone. Someone, long before history, was counting nights by reflection. Every groove meant, it came back again. Hope, recorded in light. The moon's cycle lasts 29.53 days. That tiny fraction, the half day, is the reason calendars drifted, why months and seasons rarely align perfectly. Ancient astronomers noticed and adjusted. They invented intercalary days, leap months, rituals to realign with the sky. In this way, timekeeping began as a collaboration between the heavens and human patience. The word month comes directly from moon. The word measure once meant to seek the moon's count. To live by lunar time was to live close to nature's breath. Farmers planted by it, sailors set out by it. Festivals rose and fell with its fullness. The moon was not just a clock, it was comfort, a visible reassurance that time was predictable, that endings led to beginnings. In nearly every language, the names of months once traced lunar behavior. In Sanskrit, Masa. In Latin, mensis. In Old English, monath. Each carried the same root, the same meaning, the turning of the moon. Even today, though our calendars now follow the sun, the echoes remain. The moon still marks our rituals, Ramadan, Passover, Easter, Mid-Autumn, all guided by its silver clock. But beyond keeping time, the moon taught us to feel it. Watching its slow transformation gave emotion to chronology. The new moon feels like anticipation. The waxing moon, momentum. The full moon, completion. The waning moon, release. Through it, we learned that progress could be cyclical, that retreat could be part of growth. The moon became our first teacher in patience, showing that repetition is not monotony, but music. Even modern minds, surrounded by artificial clocks, still sense that rhythm. Sleep cycles, hormone flows, and ocean tides all follow the same pattern. The body is not governed by seconds or minutes, but by gentle oscillations. The heartbeat and the moon beat to the same logic: contraction, expansion, rest. When we lose sync with it, we feel rushed. When we rediscover it, we feel calm. Artists of every age have used the moon's timing as invisible structure, Composers like Chopin and Schubert wrote pieces that swell and fade in phases, crescendos like waxing light, codas like lunar dusk. Poets pace stanzas by breath, not meter, mirroring the moon's slow rhythm. Even architects once built with it in mind. In Angkor Wat, the towers align with the moon's path at certain nights, turning stone into calendar, shadow into hourglass. Science later refined the measurement. Lunar months gave way to solar years, then to atomic seconds. Time became mechanical, impartial, absolute. Yet something was lost in that precision, the warmth of recurrence, the reassurance of return. The moon's time was human time, imperfect but kind. Its error, that half-day, was what made it feel alive, as though the universe were breathing slightly offbeat just to keep us company. Even now, when we check a clock, our bodies remember the older rhythm. Women's cycles, ocean tides, plant growth, all still follow lunar pacing. Our circadian clocks, tuned to light, respond differently during full and new moons. Sleep deepens when the night is darker, drifts when it's bright. The brain, it seems, keeps one eye on the sky. There's peace in that realization. That time was never meant to rush us. The moon's calendar has no alarm, no deadline. Its rhythm is steady, forgiving. If you miss a phase, another will come. The light always returns. That predictability, that promise of repetition is why the moon soothes. It teaches that endings are simply pauses between rounds of brightness. To live by the moon's clock is to live by attention. You cannot count its days without looking up. You cannot measure its phase without noticing its face. Each night becomes a tiny meditation, a lesson in consistency, patience, and change. The moon does not hurry through its cycle, and yet it always arrives. That is time at its gentlest, reliable, unhurried, alive. In its glow, time stops feeling like a current and starts feeling like a tide. It comes and goes, but always returns. It does not steal, it restores. That is the rhythm we were born into. The rhythm we forget in clocks and rediscover in calm. So tonight, when you see the moon hanging still in the dark, think of it as your oldest timekeeper, one that asks for nothing but attention. Its light is the reminder that time doesn't pass, it circles. That no day is truly lost. It's only waiting to come around again, and that you, too, move in that same gentle pattern, waxing with hope, waning with rest, glowing again when the world is ready for your light. The moon taught us to feel time not as a countdown, but as a return. And that lesson remains the most comforting one the sky ever gave. The moon has always been more than light. It has been a feeling one we return to whenever words, color, or sound fall short. Artists across centuries have looked up and tried to translate its silence into form. What they discovered was not how to capture it, but how to reflect it, because the moon, like emotion, cannot be contained. It can only be echoed. In art, the moon is both subject and spirit. Ancient cave painters scratched crescents beside animals, recording both hunt and horizon. Medieval manuscripts painted golden discs above biblical scenes, turning time into sacred rhythm. In Japanese woodblock prints, the moon drifts above bridges and rivers like a punctuation mark, soft, deliberate, complete. It doesn't dominate the frame, it finishes it. The artist knows that peace requires balance, light surrounded by space. During the Romantic era, painters began using the moon to show solitude without sadness. Caspar David Friedrich's figures stand on cliffs, looking out over oceans bathed in silver. The light is not cold, it's thoughtful. The viewer feels small, but not lost. The moon, hanging low and calm, reminds them that smallness and serenity often arrive together. In Impressionism, the moon became a brushstroke of memory. Monet's nocturnes shimmer with pale reflections. Whistler's nocturne in blue and silver turns the Thames into mist and music. He once said he painted, "Not what I see, but what the moon makes me feel." That sentence became the unspoken motto of every artist since the shift from depiction to emotion. Writers and poets followed. The moon gave them metaphor, the cycle of life, the comfort of repetition. the calm of distance. Shakespeare used it as the clock of fate, waxing and waning like human mood. Shelley called it pale for weariness of climbing heaven. Emily Dickinson, watching from her quiet room, described it as a traveler, kindly and slow. Each line reveals the same truth. The moon was never simply seen, it was felt. In music, it became pulse and reflection. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata was not named by him, but by a poet who said its first movement sounded like moonlight rippling across a lake. The association stuck because it felt true, the way slow arpeggios mimic waves, and silence between notes mirrors the night's hush. Debussy's Clair de Lune, Light of the Moon, captures something similar. Tenderness in sound, rhythm that breathes instead of marches. It's music written not to impress, but to soothe, to turn listening into dreaming. Even modern composers borrow that emotional wavelength. Film scores often use lunar tonality, sparse pianos, soft strings, and long pauses to evoke stillness and introspection. Think of every quiet night scene, every reflection by water, every moment before realization. The moon's rhythm lives there, even when unseen. Photographers chase it too. Their challenge is not brightness, but balance, how to show that something so familiar can still feel infinite. In long exposures, the moon leaves trails across the sky, like time writing itself in silver. In portraits, it becomes background and witness. Every photo of the moon is also a self-portrait, because what we really capture is our reaction to it. That gentle awe that never grows old. Sculptors have shaped it from marble, glass, and even sound. In art galleries, glowing spheres float in dark rooms, breathing softly with light that brightens and dims like phases. Viewers stand still, hypnotized not by spectacle but by recognition. The art reminds them of something ancient in their pulse, the memory of rhythm, of drift, of soft change. Even architecture listens to the moon. In ancient temples, light shafts were carved to align with full moons. In modern skylines, reflective glass mirrors its glow back to the sky. The city, too, has learned to shimmer. The moon completes every skyline not as decoration, but as punctuation, reminding the restless that stillness is part of progress. And yet, for all the art it has inspired, the moon remains untouched. Every attempt to capture it ends where it began, in quiet. Perhaps that's the point. Art is not possession but participation, a way of joining the rhythm of something larger. The moon gives us that rhythm freely. Its only price is attention. Think of every lullaby you've ever heard most mention the moon. Its light has always been a promise that darkness isn't empty. Mothers sang of it to comfort children. Lovers whispered under it to soften distance. Each song turned the same light into belonging. The melody didn't change, only the voice did. That's what makes the moon universal. It's always ours, even when it's shared by everyone else. In every painting, poem, and song, the moon plays the same role. The pause between thoughts. The breath that allows beauty to exist. Without it, art would be constant daylight, harsh, busy, unending. The moon teaches expression to rest. It shows that emotion, like tide, needs rhythm, movement, stillness, return. Perhaps that's why, even in the most advanced digital age, we still feel drawn to it. Screens flicker, the moon glows. Its light doesn't strain the eyes, it quiets them. When an artist runs out of ideas, they go for a walk under the moon, and the world resets. The rhythm of footsteps, the hush of air, the slow rotation of shadow, all of it recalibrates thought. The creative mind, like the tide, finds peace in reflection. The moon in art is not a symbol of mystery anymore. It's a symbol of honesty, the proof that calm can be powerful, and silence can create meaning. It reminds us that beauty isn't something we invent, it's something we notice. And noticing is a kind of love. So the next time you hear a soft piano at night, see a silver painting in a museum, or read a poem that feels like light on water, remember that the same glow inspired them all. The moon does not demand creation. It invites it. And through that invitation, It keeps humanity dreaming. Because to make art, in any form, is to do what the moon does naturally, to reflect light softly, faithfully, endlessly. Long before science explained it, people already knew. The moon changes how we feel. Not with power, but with presence. Its light slows the heart, quiets the voice, and widens the mind, just enough to breathe. The reason is simple. Our biology was written under its glow. We are creatures of light and dark, and the moon is the bridge between them. Every living thing on Earth evolved beneath a sky that waxed and waned. The tides moved, animals migrated, plants opened and closed their petals, all in rhythm with that slow, repeating pulse. Our ancestors timed their rest, their rituals, even their dreams by it. The moon was the first clock our minds learned to trust, and pieces of that rhythm still live within us. When moonlight fills the night, it alters the brain's chemistry in subtle ways. The pineal gland, a small organ near the center of the brain, senses brightness through the eyes and adjusts the flow of melatonin, the hormone that governs sleep. Under full moonlight, melatonin production gently decreases, creating lighter dreams and longer waking thoughts. That's why full moon nights often feel more vivid, as if the mind refuses to shut entirely, preferring to wander softly instead. But this isn't disruption, it's dialogue. The brain adjusts, shifting into a different kind of rest, one balanced between wakefulness and reverie. Ancient humans used that state to watch the world without fear, to think, to imagine. Modern psychology calls it hypnagogic awareness, the fertile borderland between consciousness and sleep, where creativity thrives. The moon is a guide to that threshold. Studies show that lunar light subtly synchronizes circadian rhythms across species. Coral reefs, for instance, release their eggs precisely during full moons. Birds sing later, wolves adjust their hunts, and humans report changes in mood. Not chaos coordination. The body responds to rhythm, not brightness. It likes knowing that the same light returns. Predictability, even in faint silver tones, creates trust. That's the secret of the moon's calm. Consistency. Every month, it fades, disappears, then returns, proof that cycles don't end. They renew. The brain, which craves patterns, finds safety in that repetition. Like a familiar melody, it tells us the world is still in order. That comfort seeps into emotion. Anxiety eases when rhythm replaces randomness. In neuroscience, calm is measured in waves. The brain produces slow alpha waves when we close our eyes, theta waves when we begin to drift. Moonlight encourages both. Its color temperature, a cool 4100 Kelvin, mimics twilight. It signals the body that the day has ended, but that total darkness isn't yet required. It creates a middle ground where thought slows naturally. You don't force rest under moonlight. It arrives on its own. Even sound behaves differently. On bright nights, humans speak more quietly. Villages through history observed this instinctively. Storytelling, music, and conversation all softened when the moon was high. The mind matches its surroundings. Reflection invites reflection. Under that silver light, even noise seems aware of itself. Psychologists call this entrainment. The synchronization of internal rhythm to external pattern. It's why your heartbeat aligns with slow breathing or gentle music. Moonlight entrains the emotional rhythm of a space. That's why lovers walk slowly beneath it. Why writers pause to think. Why even children whisper when it rises. The light teaches pace. For the mind, moonlight is the perfect environment for nonlinear thought, drifting connections, associative memory, and creativity without effort. Daylight focuses attention. Moonlight releases it. It's the reason late-night ideas feel fluid, as though logic has melted into imagination. Under the moon, the mind stops building and starts weaving. Emotionally, the moon provides distance. Its light is indirect sunlight softened by dust and silence. That softness translates into safety. Harsh light demands reaction. Moonlight allows reflection. In cognitive terms, it lowers sensory load. The brain stops defending and begins perceiving. That's why meditation, prayer, and art feel natural under it, not as ritual, but as chemistry. For centuries, poets described the moon as melancholy, but neuroscience reframes that as contemplation. The hormone balance it produces, slightly less melatonin, slightly more serotonin, encourages introspection without anxiety. You think, but you don't spiral. You feel, but gently. It's the emotional equivalent of floating. Sleep researchers have noticed another phenomenon. People tend to dream differently under bright moons. The dreams are more visual, slower, more narrative. The brain processes memory in long, cinematic threads rather than fragmented flashes. That's why moonlit dreams often feel like stories. You can remember their sequence, their tone, their rhythm. The moon doesn't cause dreams. It slows time enough for the mind to experience them fully. There's also the psychology of color. Moonlight, technically gray, is perceived as blue by the human eye, a trick of low-light vision called the Purkinje shift. Blue light, in small doses, has a known calming effect. It lowers blood pressure and relaxes muscles. The same physiology that responds to ocean horizons and twilight skies reacts instinctively to moonlight with a sense of exhale. The body literally breathes easier. Cultural rituals amplified this natural chemistry. In many traditions, full moons were nights of rest and renewal, moments to gather, forgive, release. The rhythm of lunar months aligned with emotion itself. A full moon was a closure, a new moon, a beginning. The mind thrives on such symbolic order. It translates astronomy into therapy. When psychologists study awe, that gentle expansion of perspective that brings both humility and happiness, they find it lowers inflammation, slows heart rate, and deepens breathing. The moon is awe's most consistent trigger. It doesn't overwhelm, it invites. It reminds the mind of scale, but without fear. You are small, yes, but beautifully included. Perhaps that's the truest reason the moon soothes. It offers connection without demand. It neither blazes nor hides. It's always visible somewhere, always patient, always returning. The brain, shaped by millions of nights beneath it, reads that constancy is peace. So when you find yourself awake at night, staring out the window, notice how your thoughts change under that light. They slow, they lengthen, they soften around the edges. That's not distraction, it's restoration. Your mind is syncing with an ancient rhythm it has never forgotten. The moon and the mind share the same function, reflection. One mirrors light, the other mirrors experience. Both are quiet, both cyclical, both endlessly renewing. And both, in their own ways, are reminders that calm is not the absence of thought, it's the rhythm that makes thought gentle. Sleep is one of the universe's oldest languages, and the moon has always spoken it fluently. Long before cities drowned the night in electricity, moonlight was the soft signal that told the body it was time to rest, but not to vanish. Unlike the sun, which commands, the moon invites. It turns the switch of wakefulness, not off, but down. The science of that invitation is written quietly in our blood, our cells, and our breath. Every night, as darkness deepens, the brain begins a slow chemical shift. Light from the eyes fades, and the pineal gland releases melatonin, the hormone that opens the door to sleep. When moonlight enters that rhythm, it doesn't interrupt it. It shapes it. The light is too faint to halt melatonin completely, yet bright enough to soften its curve. That's why nights under a full moon feel half waking, half dreaming, like floating between tides instead of sinking beneath them. In a 2013 study at the University of Basel, researchers monitored sleep cycles during different lunar phases. They found that during full moons, participants took 5 minutes longer to fall asleep and slept about 20 minutes less overall. Yet their dreams were richer, rated as more vivid and narrative. Brain scans showed slightly more alpha activity during REM stages, the same waves that appear in deep meditation. The conclusion was simple. Full moons nudge the mind closer to consciousness without waking it. The result isn't insomnia, it's lucid rest. That same subtle rhythm plays across all living systems. Ocean tides rise higher during full and new moons, when the gravitational pull aligns. Even inland, that invisible force lingers. Studies on coral spawning show perfect synchronization with lunar brightness. Sea turtles lay eggs by its timing. Trees adjust their water content during lunar cycles. The whole planet exhales and inhales with the moon's orbit, and we, as part of it, breathe in time. Your heartbeat even follows that quiet music. During dark nights, heart rate slows slightly faster after sleep onset. Under full moons, it remains elevated for a few minutes longer, as if listening. Sleep scientists call this nocturnal coherence, the subtle synchronization between light, pulse, and rhythm. The body, ever observant, adjusts itself to the sky without your awareness. Dreams themselves seem to shimmer differently under lunar influence. The visual centers of the brain, the occipital lobes, show increased activity on bright nights. This might explain why dreams take on more color and continuity. Evolutionarily, it makes sense. In pale moonlight, early humans could safely remain semi-alert, aware of predators, but able to rest. The mind learned to keep its inner world illuminated, even as the body slept. Moonlight also affects temperature. Though it adds almost no measurable warmth, its brightness influences behavior. We tend to uncover slightly, breathe deeper, and turn less. The body interprets silver light as safety, less need for defense, more room for surrender. In psychology, this is called the parasympathetic response, the body's relaxation mode. The heart slows, digestion steadies, the brain waves lengthen. You are, in essence, syncing with the moon's own patience. Modern environments often block that connection. Artificial light tells the brain it's still day, muting melatonin entirely. Yet even a glimpse of moonlight through curtains, on a wall, reflected in glass, can restore a hint of the natural cycle. It's not brightness that matters, it's recognition. The mind knows that rhythm instinctively, and when it sees it, it exhales. In sleep research, the most restorative state is called slow-wave sleep. The deep phase, where the body repairs tissues, consolidates memory, and resets the immune system. Full moons don't erase it, they merely shift its timing. You may fall asleep later, but once deep sleep arrives, it's often more efficient, condensed, potent, like a river moving through narrower banks. Some call it denser dreaming, others simply call it peaceful. There's also the emotional side of lunar rest. Under moonlight, the brain releases slightly higher levels of serotonin, the neurotransmitter linked to calm alertness. That's why moonlit nights often feel not sleepy, but serene. The combination of serotonin and mild melatonin produces a state psychologists call equilibrium relaxation, peaceful awareness with no pressure to act. It's the same state monks aim for in long meditation. The moon gives it freely, every month. Evolutionarily, this balance was vital. Too much sleep on bright nights could be dangerous. Too little would exhaust the body. The moon taught early humans the rhythm of vigilance, a gentle watchfulness that allowed rest without total surrender. That rhythm lives in us, still. It's why full moons feel both wakeful and safe, a mix of curiosity and calm. The gravitational bond between Earth and Moon also plays a role in bodily tides, tiny shifts in fluid pressure and ion balance. While immeasurable by feeling, they may subtly affect vestibular systems, the sensors that keep us balanced. Some neuroscientists propose that this faint modulation is why nighttime feels physically different, slower, smoother, as if motion itself were cushioned. But beyond measurable effects, the moon changes sleep through meaning. When people feel connected to cycles, light, dark, waxing, waning, their sleep quality improves. Predictability creates psychological safety. That safety lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps the mind restless. The moon's reliable rhythm tells the nervous system, the world is repeating as it should. In a sense, it's reassurance disguised as light. Dream researchers sometimes call moonlit sleep threshold dreaming, the state where story replaces logic, and logic becomes song. In this realm, time loses its edges. You move through landscapes that feel both familiar and vast. guided by soft curiosity instead of urgency. These dreams aren't random. They're restorative. They reweave emotion into coherence, turning fragments of waking life into meaning. Moonlight encourages that weaving by extending the transition between wake and rest. It gives the mind time to stitch itself gently together. If you've ever fallen asleep with moonlight on your face, you've probably felt it, that sense of drifting yet aware, held but free. It's not hypnosis or illusion. It's the body remembering an old agreement with the sky. I will rest when you return. I will dream when you shine softly. Every full moon is proof of that promise kept. The same light that touched ancient forests, oceans, and eyes still reaches yours. It crosses time unchanged, whispering to your cells that you are part of something measured, kind, and continuous. That knowledge alone can ease you into sleep, not through fatigue, but through trust. So when you lie awake tonight, don't fight the light. Let it move across your wall, your breathing, your thought. It isn't interruption, it's inheritance. You are part of an old rhythm that began long before you, and it's still keeping perfect time. The moon doesn't demand that you sleep. It reminds you that rest will always return, the way light always does. Sleep, after all, is just another tide. And every tide, no matter how restless, always finds its way home to the moon. When the body surrenders to sleep, the mind does not stop. It changes medium. Thoughts dissolve into imagery, logic into rhythm, memory into landscape. The moon has always been the patron of this invisible world. Even when you cannot see it, its rhythm hums beneath every dream like a heartbeat behind clouds. Dreams are not chaos. They are rehearsals, reconciliations, repairs. Every night, the brain enters its theater of reflection, replaying fragments of the day in symbolic form. And like the tides, these inner performances follow a lunar tempo. Studies have shown that dream recall, color, and intensity often rise and fall with the moon's phases. Under the full moon, people report more vivid imagery, longer narratives, deeper emotional tone. Under new moons, dreams grow quieter, simpler, closer to whispers. The psyche breathes in silver cycles. The moon's pull on the oceans mirrors its pull on imagination. Both respond to gravity and light forces invisible yet undeniable. In the same way that tides climb toward the moon, the dreaming mind rises toward it too, drawn by an instinct older than awareness. When that glow slips through curtains or reflects from walls, it cues the pineal gland to lighten its hold on melatonin. The mind brightens, just enough to stay lucid, letting the dreamer hover closer to the surface of consciousness. That half-waking quality gives lunar dreams their clarity, the ability to watch one's own story unfold. In these dreams, space often widens. The settings become vast oceans, plains, open skies lit by pale light. Psychologists call this the spatial effect of low illumination. The brain, starved of detail, fills darkness with distance. The moon teaches the mind to imagine room, and in that room, emotion has space to move. Common themes appear across centuries: water, reflection, flight, reunion. They are all metaphors of the moon's own behavior: rising, shining, receding, returning. To dream under its light is to borrow its language. When people describe floating or gliding through silver air, they are unconsciously echoing the slow orbit they've watched since childhood. The body sleeps, but the inner world continues the moon's motion. Even colors behave differently. In lunar dreams, palettes soften less red, more blue, more gray. That palette has a purpose. It calms the amygdala, the brain's emotional center. Color becomes therapy. The dream uses light not to dazzle but to soothe. Everything feels distant but safe, mysterious but kind. The moon is the set designer of peace. Mythology saw this long before neurology did. Ancient cultures believed the moon governed both tides and dreams because both were invisible movements of water, one in the sea, one in the soul. They imagined the sleeping mind as a second ocean, stirred by celestial gravity. Today, MRI scanners show something similar. During REM sleep, The limbic system lights up like a phosphorescent tide, pulsing in waves every 90 minutes, our own internal ocean, lit from within. In that glowing water, memory dissolves its hardness. The brain replays difficult moments, rearranges them, and stores them again softened. Dreaming is emotional metabolism, and the moon, with its slow phases, provides the metronome. Each full moon signals a peak of processing, each dark moon, a reset. The psyche uses light as a 5 clock for healing. Sometimes, lunar dreams speak in symbols older than language: mirrors, faces, paths of light across water. These are universal because they're drawn from shared experience, the moon reflected in every pond and puddle across human history. When you dream of walking toward light on water, you are repeating a memory imprinted in the species, the nightly view that raised the first sense of wonder. Lucid dreamers often train themselves to look for the moon inside their dreams as a trigger of awareness. They report that when they find it, the dream stabilizes, the scene brightens, noise fades, fear dissolves. The brain, sensing order, releases dopamine and GABA in balance, producing both clarity and calm. The symbol of the moon literally rewires the chemistry of the dream toward peace. Even nightmares respond to this pattern. Under bright moons, the odds of distressing dreams decrease. The additional light shortens REM latency, causing gentler, earlier dreams that soothe the system before anxiety can accumulate. It is as if the moon offers rehearsal time, a prelude of serenity. Darkness may deepen imagination, but moonlight refines it. When you awaken from a moonlit dream, the boundary between worlds lingers. The images fade slowly, replaced by the pale light itself. This transition, the quiet re-entry, is one of life's small sacred moments. The body is awake, but the mind still hums with story. If you listen closely, you can feel both realms overlapping. External light meeting internal light. Reflection, finding reflection. In a sense, every dream is a miniature orbit. You leave the surface of awareness, travel through inner space, gather fragments, and return changed, restored, subtly realigned. The moon performs the same cycle each month, disappearing, exploring, coming back brighter. Dream and moon mirror each other's rhythm, proof that the architecture of the cosmos is also the architecture of thought. Some neuroscientists believe that our ancient exposure to lunar light shaped the evolution of imagination itself, that storytelling, art, and empathy grew from minds kept half awake by the moon's glow. Around night fires, people would drift in and out of sleep, narrating half-dreams, sharing fragments. Over time, that became myth, and myth became meaning. In that sense, every dreamer is continuing humanity's oldest conversation, the dialogue between the moon and the mind. When you fall asleep tonight, imagine that conversation continuing. The moon watches through thin clouds, reflecting light that has traveled from the sun, across space, through glass, into your eyelids. The photons that left a star 8 minutes ago now paint the theater of your rest. Within that theater, the brain turns those same photons into memory, emotion, and vision. The physical becomes poetic again, a closed loop of energy and wonder. Dreaming under the moon is not escape, it is reunion. You are rejoining the oldest pattern in nature. Light that leaves, returns, and becomes story. The moon shines, so you can imagine. Imagination glows, so you can understand. The cycle continues, gentle as breathing, endless as reflection. And when the dream ends, it leaves something behind, the same thing moonlight leaves on water, a shimmer that tells you peace was here. Every night, billions of eyes turn upward, and all of them meet in the same place. The light that touches one face in Tokyo touches another in Cairo, another in Buenos Aires, another in a quiet field where someone sits alone. In that instant, geography dissolves. The moon becomes a meeting point, a silver thread binding every heartbeat on Earth into one slow rhythm. Humans have always looked for connection, and the moon has always provided it. Long before writing, before nations or maps, people used its phases to communicate across distance. 3 nights from the full moon, one tribe would say, and another hundreds of miles away would understand exactly when. The sky was the first shared calendar, the first social network written in light. Even today, separated by continents and time zones, lovers still say, "Look at the moon tonight." It's a simple sentence, but it carries an ancient code. We're apart, yet under the same glow. That single idea has comforted more hearts than any technology. You can't hold someone through distance, but you can know that the same light holds you both. The moon's orbit keeps it in constant dialogue with us. It rises later each day, about 50 minutes, as if moving deliberately so that someone, somewhere, is always watching. When you see it in early evening, someone else is seeing it at dawn. The planet rotates, but the light remains, weaving a continuous chain of gaze and reflection. It is the world's slowest conversation, ongoing for 4 billion years. Shared moonlight has witnessed everything we've ever called love. It has shone on the first human fires, on handwritten letters, on radio towers sending signals into the dark. Soldiers carried it in their pockets as superstition. Poets carried it in their eyes as metaphor. Even now, astronauts on the space station look down at its reflection on oceans and feel what their ancestors felt. Belonging that requires no words. In anthropology, connection is measured by ritual, and few rituals are as universal as looking at the moon. During harvests, communities gathered to thank it for guiding tides and growth. In the deserts, nomads used it to navigate. On islands, sailors prayed to it before long voyages. It was both clock and compass, but also comfort, the promise that no matter where the journey led, night would never be completely dark. That promise endures. City lights have dimmed the stars, but the moon still finds us. It slips through clouds, mirrors in puddles, glows on rooftops and river glass. People who never meet still share it without realizing. The same photons bounce from its surface to millions of eyes every second, particles of light literally shared among strangers. Physics and poetry briefly become the same thing. Scientists once calculated that it takes just over 1 second for light to travel from the moon to Earth. That means when you see it, you're looking 1 second into the past, the same second everyone else sees. We are all, quite literally, living one shared heartbeat behind the present. Connection doesn't get closer than that. In psychology, this sense of shared attention is called collective resonance. When many people focus on the same object, their emotional rhythms synchronize slightly. Heart rates slow, breathing aligns, festivals time to full. Moons exploit this instinct. Drums, dance, and light draw individuals into coherence. The moon becomes conductor, humanity, orchestra. The result is calm, joy, unity that requires no agreement, only participation. Artists understood this long before data confirmed it. Painters placed solitary figures beneath vast moons to remind us that solitude and togetherness can exist simultaneously. The viewer feels the loneliness of the scene, yet also feels seen by the same light. The trick of moonlight is that it turns isolation into intimacy. When you stand beneath it alone, you are standing in everyone's company. Generations communicate through it as well. Parents pointed out to children the same way their parents did. "That's our moon," they say, and the phrase becomes inheritance. Centuries from now, descendants will look up and repeat the gesture. The light will be the same, though the names, the languages, the world will have changed. In that continuity lies a deeper kind of love, one that doesn't end with lifespan but with orbit. Even grief softens under moonlight. Mourners find comfort in its patience, its quiet repetition. The moon doesn't erase pain, it holds it, stretches it gently across time until it becomes memory. People visit graves, write letters, whisper names beneath its glow, and somehow feel answered. The connection isn't imagined, it's experiential. The feeling of light shared between worlds, between presence and absence. Astronauts who've seen Earthrise say that the most profound part of space travel was not leaving humanity, but realizing how connected it already was. From the moon's distance, all boundaries vanish. Politics, history, conflict invisible. Only water, land, and cloud. One home, shared by all. The same vision is available from any hilltop or balcony. You don't need a rocket to see unity. You only need to look up. Sociologists once studied how often people look at the moon when walking outside at night. They found that if one person stops to gaze, passers-by are far more likely to look up too. Curiosity spreads like warmth. The act of noticing becomes contagious. In that small gesture, eyes turning upward, connection multiplies. The moon teaches empathy through imitation. Even technology, the newest layer of human life, bows to that same light. Astronaut photos, time-lapse videos, live streams of eclipses, millions watch together, commenting, marveling, sending hearts and emojis. Beneath all the noise, the same truth hums. We are watching the same thing. The digital age didn't replace wonder. It widened its reach. Perhaps that's the moon's greatest gift. Not beauty, but belonging. It reminds us that separation is an illusion of perspective. The same light falls on the prisoner, and the poet, the child and the elder, the ocean and the city. It judges nothing, chooses no side. It simply shines. And in that impartial tenderness, humanity glimpses its own potential to illuminate without division, to connect without condition. So tonight, wherever you are, whether you can see the moon clearly or only sense its glow through clouds, remember that someone else is looking too. Maybe across a continent, maybe across the street. For a second, your eyes share the same photon, your hearts the same pause. That is connection at its simplest and most sacred. The moon does not unite us by changing who we are. It unites us by showing what we already share. One sky, one rhythm, one quiet longing for light. And as long as it rises, that connection will never break. Every human who has ever lived has seen the same moon. That single truth connects our ancestors, our present, and everyone who will come after. It is the one constant in the long unfolding of time, unaltered, familiar, eternal in its rhythm. Empires have risen and vanished beneath it. Languages have formed and faded. Entire species have come and gone. Yet the moon remains, shining on all of it like a keeper of memory. Imagine the first people who noticed it. Firelight flickered in caves, and above the smoke a bright disk hung still, silent, unreachable. They had no words for orbit or reflection, only wonder. They must have watched it change shape and return, the first reliable pattern in a chaotic world. Before they named gods or seasons, they named that rhythm. Time began, not with sunrise, but with moonrise. Generations later, those first watchers told stories. Around fires and under trees, they passed down myths of silver wolves, sky mothers, celestial lovers. The tales were never just explanations. They were lullabies, ways of softening the unknown. Parents pointed to the sky and told children that light is watching you, guiding you, loving you. And for thousands of years, the moon became humanity's first nightlight. As villages turned into cities and history began to write itself, the moon remained the universal punctuation mark. Ancient Sumerians carved its symbol into tablets. Egyptians built calendars around its phases. Chinese astronomers measured its motion to predict eclipses. Greek philosophers used its shadow to calculate the Earth's size. Every generation added knowledge, but none replaced wonder. The science changed, the awe did not. Medieval monks studied its motion through narrow observatory windows, timing prayers by its glow. Sailors in the age of exploration steered by its reflection on the sea. The same light that shone on shepherds in Mesopotamia guided wooden ships across unknown oceans. Even the compasses of faith and curiosity found direction in its pale steadiness. During revolutions, poets still wrote to it. When the world burned with invention and noise, the moon stayed quiet, patient, forgiving. Soldiers on opposite sides of trenches looked up at it from the same mud and felt a moment of shared humanity. The light asked nothing, it only reminded them they were still part of something vast and whole. Parents, century after century, continued the simplest ritual in existence, pointing upward. "That's the moon," they whispered to small faces. "It's the same one I saw when I was your age." The child looks up, and something ancient stirs the recognition that they're part of an unbroken chain. That single moment has happened billions of times, in every language, every century. The words change, the gesture does not. In this way, the moon became inheritance, not property, not possession, but gift. The purest kind of gift, one that cannot be owned, only shared. You cannot take the moon with you, but you can leave it for someone else, knowing it will be there exactly as you found it. It is continuity without decay, beauty without ownership. Even photographs from the Apollo missions, those iconic images of Earth rising over lunar plains, are now passed like heirlooms. Children look at them the way older generations once looked at cave paintings. Proof that we, too, reached upward and left a mark. Those images will outlive us, but the moon they show will not have aged a day. It is the bridge between mortality and permanence. Think of all the moments that have unfolded under its glow. First loves, final goodbyes, silent prayers, discoveries, songs. Every sigh and promise uttered beneath it has joined a growing echo that spans time. The moon hears it all and keeps it not as sound, but as reflection. Its surface, layered with eons of dust, is a literal archive of light. Each photon that touches it carries the color of its moment. Every sunrise, every candle, every fire. The moon is not just seen, it remembers. In families, the moon often marks milestones, births, weddings, anniversaries. Its cycle is woven into human life. New moons begin months. Full moons bless harvests. Eclipses mark turning points. Across cultures, its return is always symbolic of renewal. To see it reappear after absence is to be reminded that life continues. It is a cosmic reassurance whispered into every era. Everything returns. For the modern child, surrounded by screens, the moon remains the one object unchanged by technology. It cannot be swiped or paused or stored. It exists only in real time, luminous proof that the universe still moves at its own pace. To look at it is to synchronize with that pace again, even for a moment. That moment is what every ancestor felt too. Connection across centuries condensed into a single breath of stillness. And for those not yet born, the future humans who will walk beneath different constellations, or perhaps even on other worlds, the same moon will still hang above them, familiar and calm. It will be their memory of us, just as it was our memory of those before. They will point to it and say, "That's the light they looked at. That's the face that guided them through the dark." In that recognition, time itself will feel circular, as it truly is. Generations are temporary. The moon is continuity. It reminds us that existence is both fleeting and eternal, that, while every life ends, the rhythm of light and shadow never does. We are not separate moments. We are waves in the same tide, reflections of the same glow. So when you look up tonight, remember that you're participating in the oldest ritual of the human story. The same gesture that began before language will continue long after memory. You, your ancestors, and your descendants are all connected by this single act, turning your face toward the same quiet light. The moon through generations is more than history, it's a mirror of continuity. It shows that while everything changes, wonder remains. And as long as there are eyes to look upward, the story will never end. Home is not a place. It's a feeling of return, that moment when everything unfamiliar becomes gentle again. And for as long as there have been eyes to look upward, the moon has been that feeling made visible. It has followed every migration, every exile, every voyage. No matter where you went, the same light waited for you. In its presence, even strangers felt the echo of belonging. When the first humans left their birthlands, crossing mountains and deserts, the moon was their only companion that did not change. Rivers ran dry, stars shifted with latitude, but that same disk rising, falling, faithful remained. It was both compass and comfort. To look at it was to know, the world is still here, I am still part of it. Home has always been partly made of memory, and the moon is the keeper of it. It shines on the ruins of old cities and on the windows of new ones, touching both with equal patience. Its light doesn't choose, it returns. The glow that fell on stone temples now falls on satellite dishes. It watches change without judgment. It holds everything that passes beneath it like pages in an open book. For wanderers, the moon was the bridge between homes, a quiet messenger of familiarity across distance. Sailors on foreign seas watched it rise and felt the same calm as farmers thousands of miles away. Soldiers, poets, travelers, all wrote the same line in different tongues. The moon reminds me of home. They meant not a building, but a belonging that traveled with them, a sense that somewhere, someone else was seeing it too. That's the hidden truth of the word home. It isn't where you are. It's where you are remembered. The moon remembers everything. Its light crosses oceans, hills, and years to touch each life in turn. It connects your present moment to all others who ever stood still and looked up. Every person who has ever felt lonely beneath it has unknowingly shared that loneliness, turned it into kinship through light. In this way, the moon is the planet's memory. Its surface holds the fingerprints of our voyages, our dust, our echoes. Its light holds our stories. Every photon that bounces from its face carries a small reflection of us, the cities, the oceans, the forests, the fires. When you see it glowing in the sky, you're seeing light that left the sun, touched the earth, and returned. Home itself, made visible. Scientists call the moon's pull tidal force. But on another level, it's emotional gravity, the same unseen connection that draws us back to what we love. The pull that makes us write letters, revisit memories, or look up at the night sky and whisper names. The moon tugs gently at both water and feeling. It lifts oceans, and it lifts longing. And like the tides, that longing always finds its way back. Even astronauts, standing on its dust, felt that pull. They looked up and saw the Earth glowing blue, fragile, distant, and said it looked like home, hanging in space. They expected to feel triumph. Instead, they felt tenderness. They realized that everything familiar, every sound, every scent, every heartbeat existed on that tiny sphere. The moon taught them what home truly meant, not land, but connection. In the modern world, where we move fast and far, that lesson feels sacred. We change houses, countries, and roles, but the moon keeps the rhythm steady. It says, you can wander as far as you like. There will always be a place waiting in the sky that knows your name. It's the same light that shone on the hands that raised you, the fields your ancestors walked, the stories your culture told. It carries the memory of everything that made you. When people say, I miss home, what they often miss is rhythm, the predictable kindness of familiar cycles. The moon gives that freely. Its phases mark time gently, reminding us that nothing good is truly gone. It only changes shape. The home you miss still exists, reshaped by time's orbit, still glowing in memory. You can visit it each night simply by looking up. Home is also where rest feels natural. And the moon, more than any object, signals that permission. Its light is soft enough to let the mind unclench. Under it, the body loosens its grip on control. That's why the word moonlight has always been paired with sleep, love, peace. It turns space itself into a room, the entire night sky into a ceiling of comfort. Even when unseen, the moon still works. During its dark phase, when it hides, we rest more deeply. The body knows it is safe to sleep. Then it returns, gradually brightening, reminding us to wake again. This, too, is the language of home presence, absence, return. The moon doesn't vanish. It cycles. Just like the people we love. Just like every place we've ever belonged to. For those far from where they began, travelers, immigrants, dreamers, the moon offers something that no passport, no map, no language can: continuity. You can stand in a foreign land, under foreign stars, and still recognize home in that glow. It's the one address that never changes. Perhaps that's why children, no matter how many cities they move through, learn early to point and say, the moon. The word crosses all languages, the gesture all cultures. It's the first universal recognition of belonging, the instinct to name what connects us. to name the thing that follows us kindly wherever we go. Home, in the end, is not where you return to. It's what returns to you. The moon always does. You don't need to search for it. You just have to look up. The same light that guided ancient migrations, that shone on temples, ships, and bedrooms, shines on you now. The same reflection that comforted those before you will comfort those after. The moon and the meaning of home are the same lesson written twice. That belonging isn't found, it's remembered. That distance doesn't erase connection. And that no matter how far we travel across oceans, through years, even between worlds, there will always be a light waiting, constant and kind, to remind us where we come from. So tonight, as the moon rises and fills your room with its soft glow, know that you are home, not because of where you are, but because you are part of the light that never leaves. The moon keeps watch, as it always has, and as long as it rises, you will never be alone in the dark. The future has already begun, and the moon is waiting. It hangs above us, as it always has, unhurried, unchanged, but we are slowly finding our way back to it. What was once mythology, then exploration, is now returning as homecoming. Humanity is preparing to walk again on that silent surface, not as visitors this time, but as residents, caretakers of the light we once only watched. Space agencies and private dreamers are designing new habitats, spheres of glass and regolith, where gardens might bloom beneath artificial dawns. In their blueprints, you can see something deeper than technology: nostalgia. Each structure curves like a memory of Earth. Inside them, water will circulate in slow arcs, air will hum through pipes, and humans will look up from their new horizon to see the world they came from glowing above their first sky turned into a star. They will watch Earthrise as we once watched moonrise. The same feeling will reverse. Home, now distant, will shine on them as comfort. The moon will teach them patience again. Long days of quiet light, long nights of shadow. It will remind them that survival, even in the farthest frontier, depends not on conquest but rhythm. Sleep, wake, work, rest, all in time with the orbit that first measured our days. The new explorers will plant instruments where ancient footprints rest. They will walk beside dust, untouched for half a century. Perhaps one will pause and place their hand in an old boot print. A gesture across generations, connecting 1969 to the century of their birth. They will feel no loneliness, because above them, Earth will glow like a heartbeat, proof that they are still part of a living pattern. Children born in those domes will grow up under a different gravity. They will learn to move in slow motion, to sleep through long lunar nights that last nearly 15 Earth days. To them, the moon will not be a symbol of distance but of intimacy. Their sky, their horizon, their world. They will celebrate full Earths, not full moons. Yet in their stories, they will inherit all of ours, the myths of wolves and goddesses, of poets and astronauts. The moon's legacy will evolve, but it will never lose its tenderness. From those silver plains, they will send new messages home, soft voices crossing 384,000 kilometers of silence. Families on Earth will look up at the glowing disk and know that loved ones are there, standing in its light. Once, the moon was unreachable. Soon, it will be the place where human laughter echoes again. The future will feel strangely familiar, exploration that returns us to wonder, not away from it. Scientists predict that lunar bases will mine ice from craters, using it for water, oxygen, and fuel. Those frozen molecules have waited for billions of years, untouched since comets first delivered them. When melted, they will become the first glass of water poured on another world. Imagine that drinking from a cup of ancient starlight. Even science, in that moment, becomes poetry. The moon will also become our classroom. Its silence will teach lessons Earth can't. How ecosystems adapt without weather. How light and shadow can sustain life through cooperation. How patience, not power, makes endurance possible. It will show us how to be humble builders again. Constructing gently, living slowly, remembering that every footprint leaves a mark that lasts forever. Yet the emotional meaning will matter most. The moon will remind future generations why we explore at all, not to escape home, but to understand it. Each journey outward sharpens perspective inward. Standing on the moon, humans once discovered Earth for the first time. Standing there again, they will rediscover themselves. The calm of that landscape will echo the calm we've always sought. The same calm found in a quiet bedroom, a lullaby, a dream. Technology will change everything except awe. Robotic rovers, telescopes, and satellites may orbit. But no machine will ever replace the stillness of looking up and feeling wonder. The moon will remain what it has always been, a mirror for thought. Whether viewed through atmosphere or helmet glass, its light will still feel like understanding. Imagine a future night where someone on the moon looks out from a dome window. Earth hangs above them, clouds swirling, oceans gleaming. They lift a hand, tracing the curve of continents in the glass. Somewhere below, a child looks up at the same moment, pointing to the bright shape in the sky. Neither can hear the other, yet both feel the same thing: connection. The distance has changed, the emotion has not. In time, perhaps the moon will host observatories, gardens, small towns. There will be laughter, birthdays, stories told under a black sky where stars never twinkle. And still, when people there long for peace, they will look up not outward, but back toward Earth. The reflection will continue, one light comforting the other, as it always has. The moon will teach us again that progress can be quiet. The future does not have to roar, it can drift, orbit, and return, the way the moon has done forever. In its rhythm, we'll rediscover balance, the harmony between curiosity and care, ambition and humility. The same rhythm that once lulled oceans will one day guide our journeys among the stars. One day, perhaps centuries from now, humans will travel even farther. Yet, no matter how far we go, Mars, Jupiter, beyond the moon, will always be our first step, our first reflection, our first teacher. It will always be visible from Earth, and Earth from it, two worlds, locked in a gentle dance that defines the word home. The future moon will not just belong to scientists or dreamers. It will belong to everyone, every child who looks up, every person who feels small and comforted beneath the same light. Because the moon's greatest lesson has never been about reaching outward, but about remembering inward, that we are capable of gentleness even in the vastness of space. So when you look up at it tonight, remember that you're not just seeing the past, you're also glimpsing the future. A soft promise that humanity's curiosity and kindness will continue to orbit together, as they always have. The same moon that watched our beginnings will watch our becoming, and long after our names are forgotten, it will still rise silver, silent, unafraid, keeping time for whatever hearts are left to dream beneath its glow. The Earth and Moon are not separate bodies. They are a pair, two halves of a single motion, bound by gravity and grace. Every night, we see that relationship written across the sky, one reflecting the other, one guiding the other, both circling a common center that lies not within either, but between them. That invisible balance point, the barycenter, drifts through space like a heartbeat between lovers. It is the physics of tenderness. Because of it, the Earth wobbles and the moon rocks, their dance perfect in imperfection. Each movement is response, not command. The moon tugs the oceans, the Earth tugs the moon. Together, they create the slow breathing of the planet: high tide, low tide, inhale, exhale. Every wave that curls upon a shore is a visible note in that eternal rhythm. In the beginning, the moon was closer, the days were shorter, the tide stronger. Over billions of years, the dance has lengthened, the partners drifting apart ever so slightly, about 4 centimeters a year. It sounds like loss, but it isn't. It's evolution. The rhythm stretches so that life can grow more complex, more patient, more balanced. Separation, too, can be a form of harmony. That slow retreat stabilizes the Earth's tilt, keeping seasons steady, climates breathable, time predictable. Without the moon's pull, chaos would creep in: wilder weather, faster spin, erratic days. The moon's gift is not light, but order. Its orbit is the planet's lullaby, the reason sunrise and sunset feel trustworthy. Every calendar, every heartbeat of nature is written in its cadence. Even silence moves to that beat. The forests respond with cycles of blooming and rest. Sea creatures rise and descend with the tide. Human bodies follow, too, in blood flow. Mood, sleep. We think of ourselves as separate from the sky, but our cells remember otherwise. Sodium levels, hormonal rhythms, brain waves all sway faintly with lunar timing. The universe moves through us as much as around us. If you listen closely, truly listen, you can sense it. Not as sound, but as pacing. The slowness that feels right. The way deep breathing aligns with the ocean's hush. The way moments of stillness seem to arrive exactly when they should. That is the rhythm the moon keeps. It's not measured in seconds or minutes, but in calm. Time, as physics describes it, is motion observed. But rhythm, as life experiences it, is motion understood. The moon teaches the difference. We measure its orbit in numbers, but we feel it in seasons, emotions, dreams. It reminds us that science and serenity are not opposites, they are simply two ways of perceiving the same eternal motion. Every 27.3 days, the moon completes its journey. Every 29.5 days, it shows us the full cycle of phases. That difference, that small dissonance between motion and appearance, creates the illusion of waxing and waning. The moon never truly grows or fades. It only turns, revealing what was always there. Existence works the same way. Nothing truly disappears. It simply faces a different direction for a while. This is the rhythm of all things: creation, rest, renewal. The rhythm of tides and breathing, of love and grief, of waking and sleep. It's the universal pattern that makes the world both dynamic and safe. The heart beats, pauses, beats again. The moon rises, sets, rises again. Life continues not because it avoids stillness, but because it includes it. Every species, every consciousness, participates. The whales that sing to the rhythm of tides, the trees that pull water upward in lunar sync, the human voice that lowers when night deepens, all of them are keeping time with the same celestial metronome. The moon does not command, it reminds. It tells each living thing, move, rest, repeat. Even light itself obeys rhythm. The photons that leave the sun arrive in pulses, oscillations too fast for the eye but steady enough for existence. The universe hums in frequencies, and the moon simply translates them into a language we can see: silver, slow, visible harmony. To live in awareness of this is to live peacefully. The noise of modern life, the clocks, the deadlines, the endless scrolling is just static layered on top of an older song. Beneath it, the rhythm never stopped. It beats through the ocean, through the wind, through you. To close your eyes at night and breathe slowly is to tune back into it. You rejoin the original tempo of being. And the rhythm is patient. It asks for nothing, rushes nowhere. It will continue long after our brief measures of time expire. Long after the last city light fades, the earth and moon will still turn together, locked in that slow embrace. The seas will still rise and fall. The dust will still glow silver. The silent orbit will still write circles into infinity. Someday, billions of years from now, the dance will end. The moon will drift too far to be held, and the Earth's rotation will slow until both sides face each other permanently, one world forever lit, one forever dark. Yet even that final stillness will not be tragedy. It will be rest. The last note of a song perfectly sustained. The universe, like music, doesn't vanish. It fades gently into quiet. And until that distant moment, the rhythm remains unbroken. Every breath you take tonight is part of it. Every heartbeat, every thought that slows as you drift towards sleep, aligns with. You are not outside the cosmic dance. You are one of its dancers. The same gravity that holds the moon holds you. The same balance that steadies oceans, steadies your pulse. Listen closely. There between breaths, you can almost feel it. The faint pulse of eternity. The soft repetition of existence. Inhale, exhale, rise, fall, light, dark, stillness, return. The music of being alive. That is the eternal rhythm. The song that began before there was sound, and will continue long after silence. The moon keeps time. The earth keeps balance. And you, in your quiet rest, keep faith with both. The night is older than memory, and yet it never feels old. Every time darkness returns, it arrives like something new, freshly polished by the light it hides. The moon floats there, silent as breath, repeating its patient promise. Everything comes back. Even light, even peace, even you. As you lie still, your body follows the same script written for oceans and stars. The pulse in your wrist is the echo of a tide. The rhythm of your breathing matches the turning of the world. The same gravity that holds the moon in orbit holds you gently to the earth. You are not separate from the universe. You are one of its quiet movements. The moon watches as it always has, unblinking. It remembers everything without judgment. The laughter, the wars, the songs, the prayers, all of it drifts upward and fades into light. The dust on its surface has heard every story humanity has told. It keeps them safe in silence. You might imagine that silence is emptiness, but it isn't. It's fullness without noise, the sound of balance. Between every heartbeat, between every phase, between every thought, there is a space wide enough for peace to rest. That's where you are now, in the space between. The place the universe keeps for you to breathe. If you could stand on the moon and look back at Earth right now, you would see a single glowing world, wrapped in cloud and calm. No borders, no divisions, only soft blues and greens swirling like sleep itself. You would see your home as one, small, fragile, perfect rhythm of light and water. From that distance, even pain would look temporary, a ripple in an ocean of time. The moon would feel small beneath your feet, the earth, impossibly beautiful in the sky. But if you waited long enough, you would notice something. The earth rises slowly, then falls, then rises again. Even from space, the rhythm continues. It never ends, it only softens. The whole cosmos breathes with you. Everything you've ever been afraid to lose is still here, transformed but unbroken. The moments you loved most, the laughter, the sunlight, the gentle words, still exist as patterns of energy moving through air, through memory, through you. Nothing in the universe is ever wasted. It simply changes form. Even stars do not die, they spread. Even silence is not absence, it's the place sound goes to rest. The moon knows this. That's why it glows even in shadow. It doesn't make light, it gives it back. Reflection, not production, the art of gentle persistence. Maybe that's what peace really is. The ability to shine softly with what you've been given. To reflect without burning, to illuminate without taking. In the future, long after this moment fades, others will look at the same moon and feel the same calm. They will not know your name, but they will share your feeling. They will sit by windows, wander through fields, float on seas, and find comfort in that familiar glow. You are part of that chain, one quiet link in a long, luminous story. The night deepens. Outside, the moon climbs higher. Shadows lengthen, then blur. Somewhere an ocean moves. Somewhere a forest exhales. Somewhere a child turns over in sleep. The world keeps breathing in rhythm, and you breathe with it. The harmony is complete. There is no need to think now. Thought belongs to daylight. The night belongs to rest, to dreaming, to gentle return. Let the moon keep watch for you. Let gravity hold you. Let time slow to its natural speed, the same slow orbit that keeps everything safe in motion. If a thought comes, let it pass like a cloud across the lunar face. You don't have to hold it. The light will return on its own. Even silence moves. Even stillness travels. All you must do is remain, breathing softly, as the world continues its patient rotation beneath you. Listen not for sound, but for rhythm. The faint whisper beneath everything. The ocean in your blood, the pulse in the earth, the moon in the sky, all moving together, perfectly timed. That is the quiet forever. It has no beginning, no end, only this moment, endlessly repeating. And as you drift, the boundaries blur between your body and the air, between your thoughts and the stars. You are not looking at the night anymore. You are part of it. The same atoms that shine in the moon float in your breath. The same photons that left the sun hours ago now rest gently on your skin. You are made of the same light you've been watching. The universe is not out there. It is here, in the slow beat of your heart, in the rise and fall of your breath, in the calm gravity that keeps you resting where you are meant to be. The same rhythm that turns galaxies turns you. The same silence that fills the void fills you. You have never been separate from it, only unaware of how close it has always been. And so, as you let go tonight, remember, the moon does not disappear when you close your eyes. It waits. It shines quietly above oceans and cities, forests and fields, on sleeping animals and distant hearts. Its light reaches through every window, every dream, every memory. You are one of those reflections, now a thought returning home to calm. Everything slows. The air thickens with peace. The pulse eases. Time spreads out like a silver tide. You are not falling asleep. You are drifting back into rhythm, back into the steady heartbeat of the world, back into the quiet forever. And so, tonight, the world keeps turning quietly, endlessly beneath the same silver light. The oceans breathe. The cities rest. The mountains dream in their ancient stillness. Somewhere, far above the clouds, the moon keeps its silent watch. A small reflection of everything you've ever loved, returning that love to you in light. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. You've learned enough for one night. The universe will keep its rhythm without you needing to hold it. The tides will rise, the stars will drift, and the same calm that shaped the moon will cradle your thoughts until morning. If you found peace here, if this quiet journey felt like home, then let yourself return whenever you need to. There will always be another story waiting, another night, another soft reflection. Until then, sleep well, dream slowly, and may the same light that guided your ancestors tonight find you again, tomorrow right here, beneath the moon. You've been listening to Boring History for Sleep. Good night, traveler.